Chapter 2768. No one in crazed manner was afraid of death. Those who were called out by Yi Qinghan all knew that this battle was suicide. No one could guarantee that they would win. Apart from crazed manner, dark dance, immortal Emperor Qing Zun, District Master, Jingfan Mountain Lord, Yi Mingxi, and Yan tribes Yi Qinxing and Huo Lingtian, there were a total of 27 people. Yi Qinghan had borrowed people, including Li Peiza and Su Zhan. The two were still in seclusion, and their imperial aura was much stronger than immortal Emperor Qing Zun's. After all, while others cultivated for 10,000 years, they cultivated for 1,000,000 years. Their resources, cultivation techniques, and insights were all fully supported by the ancient celestial emperor. Both of them had the highest chance of winning against Class 1 Hall. Yi Qinghan waved his hand, opening the Overgod space. Take your resources. Here, you can cultivate at ease. I've placed all your cultivation techniques and secret arts inside. Take what you need. This battle is the most crucial. As long as we win, Class 1 Hall will have to retreat, and we'll have enough time. Everyone in crazed manner was excited to have an extra 30,000 years. If 300 years wasn't enough, how could 30,000 years be enough? 300 years later, only 1% of them would survive. 30,000 years later, 50% of them would survive. All of the experts from Crazed Mansion entered the Godlord space, where they chose their techniques and places to cultivate. The space here was like a planet with life, but the magical laws here were the same as those of the ancient world of immortals. Yi Qinghan also entered the Overgod space. He was prepared to cultivate wholeheartedly for 30,000 years, to consolidate his cultivation techniques and create his own Tao. Imperial pills weren't of much use to him, let alone diluted ones. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground, consolidating all his secret arts, including human Tao arts, minor arts, and mystique. Yan tribe's 3,000 mystiques, Imperial Immortal Finger, Fiery Solar Grand Mystique. Yi Qinghan did not let go of any of the supernatural powers and secret arts. He absorbed their dharma and principles, mobilized the dharma and principles of the demon core of the giant of starry sky, and reintegrated them. This was a long process. A single divine ability would take a few days to organize, and one would also need to absorb the laws and order. After all the secret techniques were organized, it would take about 10,000 years. If one wanted to create a cultivation technique, it would take 20,000 years. It was very dangerous. Yi Qinghan was completely immersed in his comprehension. The others were also bitterly cultivating. If they didn't go all out now, they would be killed in the future. In the outside world, Saint of Chess mobilized the army outside Heaven Conquest Camp to defend Crying Ghost Ridge to the death. He was worried that the people from Class 1 Hall would suddenly come over to attack them. The undying immortal world fell into a deathly silence. There was no war, but this was even more terrifying than a war. Once the war broke out, it would be enough to destroy the heavens and earth. It might even be worse than the ancient immortal world. Void, Class 1 Hall. There were more than 30 young people standing outside the hall. They were Class 1 Hall's foundation and foundation. Once the older generation was gone, Class 1 Hall would have to nurture them again, and the amount of time and resources that Class 1 Hall would need was something that Class 1 Hall could not bear within a short period of time. 300 years later, only success is allowed. Failure is not allowed. I want Quang Manor to go back as well. No one is allowed to live. The hall master looked down at everyone and said in a deep voice, "Yes." The 30 or so Class 1 Hall disciples bowed and said, "What are you carrying on your backs?" The hall master asked seriously. "The inheritance and revival of the ancient gods and ancient immortals." The Class 1 Hall disciples said in unison, "For the revival and inheritance, what can you do? Until death do us part." The 30 or so experts were in unison, and their auras were like rainbows. They had been instilled with the idea that they would not regret even if they died. This was as terrifying as Kwang Manor's idea. However, Kwang Manor was willing to do it, while they had been instilled with the idea that changed their minds. Go into seclusion for another 300 years. The hall master said coldly. Yes. The 30 or so Class 1 hall disciples were in unison. Their equipment was similar, and they all wore special masks. No one knew what they looked like, but one could tell that they were all very young. They had been selected from the countless ancient gods and ancient immortals with the best talent. It was not easy for more than 30 to survive. After all, only 30 or so people survived out of millions of people. Which one of them was not a monster? The young disciples retreated, and only the patrolman stood at the side. Is there any news? The hall master asked calmly. The patrolman shook his head and said, Nothing major happened. Kwang Manor seems to have taken out all their trump cards, but the Yen clan's trump card did not appear. I suspect that they have no trump cards left. How can that be? From what I know, there is still one trump card that has not appeared. You are underestimating the Yen clan too much. The hall master slowly stepped into the hall, his imperial robes fluttering. The patrolman did not understand the ancient times. Although he was the Taigu emperor, he was not an ancient person. At this moment, he could only remain silent. How are the Space Master God and the other 4 emperors? The hall master asked. They are still in the ancient immortal world. Their injuries are too heavy, and they will not be able to appear in the short term. The patrolman bowed and replied. The hall master thought for a moment, then said softly, Go and take their Master God weapons and the Taigu Emperor's weapon. The patrolman was stunned, and he was somewhat shocked. The hall master wanted Class 1 hall's disciples to use the Taigu Emperor's weapon and Master God weapons to fight against Kwang Manor. However, he did not refuse. Just in case, face was not important. Okay. The patrolman replied, then bowed and retreated. The hall master stood alone in Class 1 hall, looking at the mountain and river diagram. He took a deep breath, then turned and left Class 1 hall, heading into the depths of space. No one knew where he went. Time flew by, and dozens of years passed in the blink of an eye. A few thousand years had passed in the God space, and no one had come out yet. Outside the God space, there was still a large group of experts cultivating bitterly. Although the experts of Jingfan Mountain had been eliminated, they still had combat power and connections. They were contacting the people of the Golden Immortal Club. No matter how weak a Golden Immortal's cultivation was, they were still big shots. In the end, there were still many people who were very strong. The more combat power they had, the more chances they had. Most of the people in the Ancient God and Ancient Immortal camp did not have any status. However, it was different in Kwang Manor. They were all equal. Even if they died in battle, it would be at the final juncture. Even if they died, they would have glory. What could they do in the Ancient God and Ancient Immortal camp? They were just cannon fodder. If Kwang Manor dared to charge, they would only be able to say that they deserved to die. In this chaotic world, who could guarantee that they would not die? Zhang Fan and the others traveled everywhere, specifically acting as lobbyists. They hoped that the club members would join Kwang Manor and pressure Class 1 Hall so that they would stop fighting. Yi Qinghan wanted to stop fighting, and all the experts in the immortal world knew about it. However, Class 1 Hall might not give them a chance. Yi Qinghan stood on the moral high ground. If everyone wanted to stop fighting, they would obviously help Kwang Manor. In the past, the members of the club were not ancient gods or ancient immortals. At least, they were not pure ancient gods or ancient immortals. Their bloodlines were thin and their status was low. Most of them joined Kwang Manor, but some escaped into the depths of the sea, hoping to find a paradise. Chapter 2769. With people fighting, there would naturally be people fleeing. That was human nature. Zhang Fan and the others saw that many people wanted to leave the undying, immortal world. They tried their best to persuade them, but they were unwilling to help. We support sect leader Ye's decision. We also hope that he can end the war. I admire his fearlessness. A middle-aged man sighed. Zhang Fan smiled bitterly. Then lend us a hand. Our chances of winning will be higher. We are weak. Taoist Zhang Fan, please don't persuade us. Another big shot said firmly. Zhang Fan and the other big shots were a little angry, but they still restrained themselves and advised in a deep voice, who doesn't have weak combat strength? But since all the big shots of the undying immortal world have stepped forward, Class 1 Hall should also give in. You don't want to contribute now? You want to wait until the war ends before you can enjoy the fruits of war? That's not right. Taoist Zhang Fan, we belong to the undying immortal world. Why can't we come back and enjoy peace after the war ends? Many big shots reprimanded, blaming Zhang Fan for being rude. Zhang Fan was unyielding and said angrily, "You don't contribute but want to enjoy the fruits of war? This old man is ashamed to be on the same level as you. The so-called Big Shot Club is weak." The remaining people only wanted to enjoy the fruits of war. They looked at Zhang Fan with disdain and waved their hands, ordering their people to migrate to the border of the undying immortal world. Emperor Taihao smiled bitterly and sighed. "Forget it. Taoist Zhang Fan, let them go." Seeing so many strong people migrating, the weak could only wait for death. With their speed, they wouldn't be able to escape from the undying immortal world. Rather than die outside, they would rather die in their ancestral land. On this day, a beautiful woman came to the Crying Ghost Ridge. She was riding a sky wolf. Even the sky wolf was in its fourth form. The woman's cultivation couldn't be seen clearly. It was very vague. Wolf Girl, the one who fought side by side with Yi Qinghan in the Crying Ghost Ridge. Back then, she was even more terrifying than Yi Qinghan. She didn't fall behind and even led the entire Sky Wolf tribe. Although Yi Qinghan had controlled her, he had never ordered her to do anything. She was still very grateful to Yi Qinghan. Therefore, before the final battle began, she came and took the initiative to lead the Sirius clan to stand on the side of the Kuang Manor. Kuang Fu came out to welcome her and led her into the depths of the army. "Where's Sect Master Yi?" Wolf Girl asked calmly. The chess saint received her personally. He cupped his fists and said, "The Sect Master is in seclusion and will only appear in about 200 years. If you don't mind, you can rest in the military camp for a while. I will immediately remind him when he comes out of seclusion." The wolf girl's face was cold. Her fingernails were long and slender, sharper than a blade. She could stab her enemy's heart at any time. Other people's fingernails were all flesh-colored, but only hers were red, completely soaked in blood. For so many years, she didn't know where she had been fighting, nor did she know how many people and ferocious beasts she had killed. "Got it. Arrange a room for me," Wolf Girl said coldly. Yi Qinghan didn't know that Wolf Girl had come. At this moment, he was meditating on the human Tao. Its operating dharma and logos, as well as order, were becoming clearer. Using the human Tao to observe the heavenly Tao, everything became clearer. In order to create Tao techniques and secret techniques, one had to first understand the world's order and dharma and logos. This was the prerequisite. Yi Qinghan was slowly absorbing dharma and logos and order. In the end, he realized that the human Tao was different from the Imperial Immortal Finger Technique. The Imperial Immortal Finger Technique followed the dharma and logos of all Taos, but the human Tao was equal to dharma and logos and order. Its power was one level higher, and its destructive power was stronger. For a full 10,000 years, Yi Qinghan had sorted out all the secret techniques and mystique. All dharma and logos and order were under his control. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes and rested for a while. When he came out of the chief god space, he realized that Wolf Girl had come. Furthermore, she was so strong in combat. He was overjoyed and quickly led her into the chief god space. "I'll help you in this battle. Remove the spirit-controlling mystique from my sea of consciousness." Wolf Girl was tall and had a perfect figure. She had a curvy figure, and her voice was slow and deep. She was full of charm. Yi Qinghan immediately nodded and said, "No problem. Back then, I was also afraid of exposing myself. Now that I've been exposed, there's no need for the spirit-controlling mystique to control you. However, with my current strength, I'm unable to reverse it. Remove the spirit-controlling mystique. Once I become an emperor, I'll definitely remove it for you." Wolf Girl nodded and did not say anything else. Yi Qinghan quickly led Wolf Girl to where Supremacy Yi, the multicolored snake, and the God Devourer Hawk were. He pointed at the Beast God Cannon and said, "You can cultivate the Beast God Cannon for at least 20,000 years. That's enough time for you to fully comprehend one Beast God Cannon." Although Wolf Girl was human, she had been completely assimilated by the wolf race. The order of her flesh and blood had been assimilated into the wolf race. She would have an advantage in cultivating the Beast God Cannon. The moment she saw the Beast God Cannon, Wolf Girl revealed a look of joy. The multicolored snake opened its eyes. It originally had a sinister look, but when it saw Wolf Girl, it immediately shrank its head and ran behind Supremacy Yi. It seemed to be very afraid of Wolf Girl. Wolf Girl used a cold gaze to look at the multicolored snake. The multicolored snake was so scared that it trembled all over. It smiled obsequiously and said, "Beauty, don't misunderstand. I have no enmity towards you. Look at you. You're really embarrassing me, the emperor of all beasts." Supremacy Yi sneered in disdain. Then, he bowed and said to Wolf Girl, "Hey Beauty, we meet again. Do you still remember me? That cute divine bird?" Wolf Girl looked at Supremacy Yi with disdain. This guy actually dared to call himself the emperor of all beasts. Then what was she? "I can't forget." Wolf Girl snorted and said, "Like I said, you and I have a deep relationship. Let's cultivate the Beast God Cannon together. In the future, the world of all beasts will be divided equally between us." Supremacy Yi was terrified to the bone. Wolf Girl's wolf nature and beastly aura were too strong. No one would believe that she was a human. "You guys settle down for a while. I'll cultivate the Beast God Cannon. Don't disturb me for a while," Wolf Girl said firmly. The God Devourer Eagle was an honest person. Moreover, his talent wasn't good. He would need to settle down for a long time after cultivating for a while. Therefore, he didn't have any objections. However, Supremacy Yi and the multicolored snake were unwilling. However, they didn't dare to refute and could only bow and agree. Yi Qinghan didn't expect the multicolored snake to be afraid of Wolf Girl. However, it was good that there was someone who could subdue him. The multicolored snake's eyes were too unsettling. He stared at everyone as if he wanted to eat them. He didn't even let off the people of Quang Manor. Now that Wolf Girl was here, perhaps he would be more obedient. Yi Qinghan smiled and quickly retreated. After resting for a few days, he began to use the Immortal Emperor Finger Technique and the Human Tao Technique to create his own mental cultivation technique. The Immortal Emperor Finger Technique, the Human Tao Technique, the Inverse Space Galaxy Diagram, and the Giant Star Beast Demon Core were the foundations of his self-created cultivation technique. Along the way, on the level, Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He felt that the Yen tribe, the Ancient Immortals, and the Ancient Immortals were too orthodox. If I were to go against the Tao and reverse the laws and order, what kind of power would that be? Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and pondered. His hands formed a seal, and the power in his body surged. He began to test out the subtle power. When the laws and order were reversed, the heavens and earth darkened. Even the golden body of Utmost Saint couldn't withstand such power. Chapter 2770. Scrolls do not count for points. If you can use scrolls to read other books. It would be great if you missed this month. Thank you. Once the Dharma and logos were reversed, heaven and earth would not tolerate it. Once the order was reversed, the heavenly Tao would cease to exist. No one had ever thought of reversing the Dharma and Logos. No normal person would do so. No. Reversing the Dharma and Logos was something no one would do. Not even the Inferno ancestor had done so. Yi Ching-han's reversal of the Dharma and Logos nearly caused the golden body of Paragon to collapse. The blood shattered the bones and turned into a blood sword that pierced the heavens. Hiss! Yi Ching-han sucked in a breath of cold air and muttered, "No wonder no one has ever reversed the Dharma and Logos. Even the Inferno ancestor's flesh might not be able to withstand it. If I were to reverse the Dharma and Logos of the golden body of Paragon, would I be able to change the physical body and create a reversal technique?" Yi Ching-han muttered to himself. In order to create a different technique, he had gone crazy. Reversing the Dharma and Logos of the physical body would cause him to turn to ashes if he was not careful. But creating a technique that conformed to the Dharma and Logos of the physical body, could he surpass his predecessors? Not necessarily. Once you have the courage, you can do anything. Yi Ching-han did as he thought. He was most familiar with the Dharma and Logos of the physical body. In that instant, Yi Ching-han gave up on fusing with the Inferno ancestor's arm. He began to reverse the Dharma and Logos of the physical body. The Dharma and Logos represented heaven and order represented the heavenly Tao. Reversing the Dharma and Logos of the Dharma and Logos of the physical body was equivalent to reversing the heavenly Tao. It was also equivalent to transcending 10 tribulations and 10 lifetimes. Others did not send Yi Ching-han to his death, but Yi Ching-han took the initiative to send himself to his death. After transcending this tribulation, he would no longer be part of the physical body of the physical body. Hua! The flesh on his finger wriggled. All the laws and Dharma and Logos of the physical body were changing. Every cell was changing in the opposite direction. The Inferno ancestor's blood had been refined and replaced with a new bloodline. A bloodline that was not part of the Dharma and Logos. Yi Ching-han's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Reversing the Dharma and Logos of order would require one to endure unbearable pain. His soul was almost being torn. His left hand was badly mangled, and the flesh began to wriggle. Time seemed to slow down, and a day felt like a year. Yi Ching-han watched with his own eyes as the order of his flesh and blood and Dharma and Logos reversed. His soul was distorted, and he almost fainted. Whoosh! Yi Ching-han put on his mask. The dragon tiger mask could clear his mind and strengthen his soul. At this moment, Yi Ching-han could not help but be thankful that he had consumed a soul-type spirit earthly soul pill. Otherwise, with his soul's previous state, this reversal would have probably caused his soul to die a tragic death. Ah, Yi Ching-han growled. The order of the first finger changed, and the Dharma and Logos reversed. Then, the second finger, as time passed, reversing one finger would take several hundred years. By the time all 10 fingers were reversed, it would already be 3,000 years later. Yi Ching-han found that the power of his apotheosis immortal finger was weakening. The apotheosis immortal finger was no longer compatible with his physical body. There was no turning back. Yi Ching-han's eyes flashed fiercely. He began to reverse the order and Dharma and Logos on his arms. Precious light flowed all over his body, and the order and Dharma and Logos around him retreated. Time was as slow as a stream. It was slow and powerful, but it could change everything. Outside the chief god space, thousands of stars flickered. An alien star exploded, and its light covered the sky. It was a shocking sight. In the depths of the void, the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall watched as the alien star revolved without a trace. He could not grasp its trajectory at all. If he could find and destroy the alien star's foundation, the foundation of the person corresponding to the alien star would also be destroyed. Everything would no longer be a problem. The Hall Master watched in astonishment as the alien star streaked across the sky and disappeared in a flash. He kept chasing after the alien star, but it was not fixed in one spot. Instead, it shuttled through the universe and disappeared in the blink of an eye. However, the light was still there. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The Hall Master's figure flickered as he used greater spatial transference to cross an entire galaxy. However, even after decades of chasing, he could not catch up to the alien star. After so many years, you've finally moved. Since you're not within the laws, then come out. The Hall Master's aura soared. He controlled the stars in the universe and headed to the depths of the universe, wanting to block the alien star's escape. However, the alien star was faster than he expected and disappeared in an instant. There was no other way. If the Hall Master could not catch the alien star, he could not destroy its foundation. 130 years. The Hall Master had chased after the alien star for 130 years, but he could not catch it. 130 years was equivalent to more than 13,000 years in the Chief God space. Furthermore, Yi Qinghan had comprehended for more than 10,000 years in the Chief God space. More than 20,000 years had passed in the Chief God space. There were only a few thousand years left before the 30,000-year deadline. In the outside world, only a few decades had passed. The Hall Master of Class 1 Hall let out a breath of turbid air as he stood on the dead star. At this moment, he had no choice but to stop. There were only 30 years left before he could negotiate with Yi Qinghan. If he continued chasing after the alien star, it would be meaningless. It would only give Yi Qinghan more time. This time, it seemed that he could only attack Yi Qinghan and break his Dao heart. Then, nothing would be a problem. Whoosh! The Hall Master of Class 1 Hall had spent more than 20 years on the way back from the depths of the Star River. There were only a few years left before the negotiation. The Dao Patroller had already returned from the ancient immortal world. He had brought back the space-time Master God weapons, the 4 Taigu Emperor weapons. Each of them was an existence that could destroy heaven and earth. They had used up the 12 immemorial emperors' endless efforts and the ancient immortal world's most powerful weapon refining resources. Use your projection. I will use my projection to negotiate with Yi Qinghan. Remember, the goal this time is not to negotiate. It is to pull out all the trump cards of the Yen tribe. Uproot them. There is only one alien star left. I have plenty of chances to kill it. The Hall Master said in a deep voice. The Dao Patroller nodded, cupped his fists, and bowed. Then I will bring the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall to the immortal world. Go. The Hall Master said indifferently. The Dao Patroller immediately retreated and called out all the disciples in seclusion. There were 36 of them. Their cultivation had already reached a heaven-defying stage. They were the final foundation of the ancient immortals. Time Inheritor, Mountain River Inheritor, Ancient River Inheritor, Axe Emperor Inheritor, Heaven Shocking Staff Inheritor, step forward. 5 of the 36 stepped forward. Their auras were restrained, but they gave off a suffocating feeling. I will take away your inherited Emperor weapons. In this battle, the 5 of you are only allowed to win. If you lose, kill yourselves. The Dao Patroller said coldly. Yes. The 5 of them were abnormally resolute and confident. Their Emperor hearts were firm. The other Hall Master of Class 1 Hall were the same. In this battle, they were only allowed to win. All of you, follow me to Ghost Crying Ridge. Let those brats from Quang Manor see that Class 1 Hall will never lose. The Dao Patroller said coldly. Hua! The 36 of them stood in unison, waiting to depart. Whoosh! The Dao Patroller brought the 36 disciples across the void. They left the ancient immortal world through another space node and entered the immortal world. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had completely given up on the Yen ancestor's eyes and ears. Everything was his. Even his bloodline was no longer that of the Yen ancestor. He was a new race that did not belong to the Yen ancestor, nor did he belong to the ancient immortals. He was an individual that did not belong to the 5 elements and was not bound by laws and order. However, he still had one restriction, and that was his current realm. He had not reached the great perfection realm. This kind of disregard for laws and order was only within a certain range. If the Taigu Emperor and Class 1 Hall attacked him, he would still die. There was no time to create his own cultivation method. He only had a few years, which was equivalent to a few days in the outside world. There was not enough time to do anything. Chapter 2771. The dragon tiger mask was stained with blood. His entire body was covered in blood, as if he had walked out of a pool of blood. His aura was gone. He had transcended the 5 elements and was not bound by laws and order. Yet, he could mobilize laws and order and control the 5 elements. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand, and rain poured down, washing away all the blood on his body. He was still the same person, but he was no longer human. At this time, the experts of Kuang Fu began to wake up one after another. The aura of the experts had increased by hundreds of times. The one who improved the most was Shurgo. His hair was disheveled. Yi Qinghan was the eternal pain in his heart. He had fallen into the ruthless path, and even Yi Qinghan could not get her back. There was only one reason for this. He was too weak. In the past 30,000 years, Shurgo had given his life to the laws and the path, and forcibly raised his cultivation to the level of Supreme Chao. Since boss can't get you out of the ruthless path, I'll do it myself. Shurgo clenched his fists and resolutely stepped out of space. His figure flashed, and he shot up into the clouds. He viciously grabbed an enormous planet and directly refined it, turning it into a huge brick. Boom! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! The second star was refined, and the third star was soon followed by the third star. The terrifying laws and order collapse. He refined a star in a few hours. He refined a total of 10 stars, and then condensed the 10 bricks of order and dharma and logos. Finally, he used 3 days to refine them into a golden brick. It shone with a golden light, filled with dharma and logos and order. I'll slap you bastards to death. Shurgo roared with the golden brick in his hand. If Yi Mingshi was ruthless, then he was too infatuated, to the point of madness. Yi Mingshi entered the ruthless path and achieved great success. She was the ruthless empress. Huolingtian had achieved great success with the celestial burning technique, and could instantly refine fourth form expert. He could rival the saber emperor of Class 1 Hall. Yi Qinxing's human sword technique had reached the level of the previous generation's Supreme Elder. This time, the owner had truly reached the pinnacle of the inverse space galactic diagram. He was definitely one of the few existences below the Taigu Emperor. Everyone was improving. Jiang Jingtian, Gu Qingyu, Lin Wutian, and the others had all reached a new level. Lin Wutian was no longer the only one in the crazy mansion, aside from Yi Qinghan. He was now on par with the others. Even if he was stronger, he wouldn't be that much stronger. In this life, if someone were to claim the title of emperor first, it would definitely be this group of people from Crazed Manor and one or a few of the 36 disciples of Class 1 Hall. Li Peiza and Su Zhan had also awakened. They held the immemorial pseudo-emperor sword and the soul-seizing frost spear in their hands. Their auras were overwhelming, and their emperor's might was dense. The path to becoming emperors had already been formed. If they didn't die, the emperor's throne would be within their reach. Yi Qinghan told them about his deal with the ancient heavenly emperor, then said in a low voice, "Brother Li, Brother Su, please forgive me for harming your reputation." Li Peiza smiled calmly and replied, "It's fine. I don't care about reputation. In my life, the most fortunate thing was meeting you. You changed the trajectory of my destiny. I should be thanking you." Su Zhan said, "Brother Yi, there's no need to blame yourself. We'll accept the title of traitor." Yi Qinghan was extremely moved. These two were among the few people he had acknowledged in the undying immortal world, and they were the first ones he had acknowledged. I won't thank you. Let's wait until after the battle. We won't go home until we're drunk. Yi Qinghan swung his fist to meet the other two's, full of heroism. First to death. Then to freedom. Ha ha ha, Crazed Manor laughed. The probability of death in this battle was too high. Anyone could die. Drinking after the battle was naturally to honor death first, then to honor freedom. Whoosh. At this moment, Wolf Girl stood up. Her entire body was emitting a bestial and wolfish aura. She was a woman, but she had such an aura. Her sharp eyes were terrifying. What a powerful beast god aura. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and involuntarily took half a step back. My friend is also here to help. Yi Qinghan immediately explained. Everyone from Crazed Manor nodded. However, Wolf Girl was unusually cold and did not have any human aura. Let's go out. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and took the lead to step out of the chief god space. After everyone came out, he waved his hand and put away the chief god space. Then, he walked towards the Crying Ghost Ridge. Outside the Crying Ghost Ridge, the elite hall had gathered. At least half of the 36 elite hall disciples were more terrifying than the Saber Emperor. All the core gods and the inheritors of the Taigu Emperor had arrived. Their fighting strength was inferior to the people from Elite Hall. Although their cultivation techniques were similar, they were inferior to the inheritors of the Emperor weapons. The inheritors of the Emperor weapons were all imposing. It was as if they were deliberately suppressing the inheritors of the Emperor weapons. No one dared to stand in front of them. At this moment, the Tao Patroller was also extremely disdainful of the inheritors of the Emperor weapons. He was also an inheritor of the Emperor weapons. Due to his bloodline, he was slightly weaker than the Taigu Emperor. However, he had the strength of the Taigu Emperor. In front of the Crying Ghost Ridge, there were more than 40 chairs on a plain. Aside from the Tao Patroller who sat at the front, the other Elite Hall disciples sat at his sides or behind him. The inheritors of the Emperor weapons sat at the back. The other ancient gods and ancient immortals could only stand. Yi Qinghan had brought a large group of experts here. He was not afraid of death and wanted to use battle to negotiate. If he won, there would be peace. If he lost, he would be punished. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Thud thud thud. There were more than 30 experts. Only the Taigu Emperor was missing. Their overall aura was suppressed by the other party. Yi Qinghan and the others arrived at the plain and chose to set up camp on a mountain 10 miles away. They casually opened up some places to sit and rest. The Hall Master of Elite Hall did not come. Yi Qinghan frowned as he stared at the Tao Patroller. He stepped to the center and asked coldly, "Is the Hall Master of Elite Hall a coward?" Boom. The Tao Patroller was furious. He smashed the table and chair with a palm. His aura soared to the stars. "How dare you!" The Tao Patroller stepped to the center and confronted Yi Qinghan. His aura reached the clouds, and the Emperor's aura crushed the order. Yi Qinghan looked at the Tao Patroller. He did not care about the Emperor's aura at all. Even though he was not completely outside the 5 elements, half of his body had crossed over. "I am indeed very daring. I had discussed with you before that we would negotiate in 300 years. Even if we were to fight and negotiate at the same time, the Hall Master of Elite Hall should be here by now." Yi Qinghan said coldly. Whoosh! At this moment, an image suddenly appeared in the void. It was the Great Hall of Class 1 Hall. A white-haired old man sat in the Great Hall. He wore a mask and his eyes pierced through the void. It was as if he could see this place from Class 1 Hall. "Even though I am not in Crying Ghost Ridge, I can still talk with you. Choose a place and we can sit down and talk. I can also see the strength of Crazy Manor." The projection of the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall actually transcended and directly walked out of the projection. The illusory figure became corporeal, as if it was an ancient supreme emperor with flesh and blood. It directly arrived in front of Yi Qinghan. Hiss hiss. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. This kind of divine technique had truly transcended everything. Chapter 2772. Class 1 Hall's Hall Master projected an afterimage and walked out of the projection. His aura was so strong that a simple look suppressed Yi Qinghan's aura. Hiss, Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. After a long time, he extended his hand and said, "Please." To the left of Crying Ghost Ridge was a tall mountain that overlooked the plains. Whoosh! Class 1 Hall's Hall Master appeared at the top of the mountain with a single step. With a wave of his hand, the mountain was cut off, and a round table and 2 stone chairs appeared. "Sit." Class 1 Hall's Hall Master said coldly. Yi Qinghan slowly sat down, facing Class 1 Hall. He leaned against the stone chair and stared at this person, as if he wanted to see through the illusion and see his identity through the projection. Yi Qinghan clasped his hands and placed them on the table. He looked at Class 1 Hall's Hall Master and asked, "How should I address you, Hall Master?" "It's just an empty title. Just call me Hall Master," the Hall Master said coldly. Yi Qinghan looked at Class 1 Hall's Hall Master and said calmly, "We can talk. There's no need to fight. You want your ancient immortal world, and I want the undying immortal world. To hell with being a savior. I'm not interested in killing ancient gods and ancient immortals, and I'm not interested in taking revenge either. What do you think? Words are no guarantee. I won't put the inheritance of ancient gods and ancient immortals on your promise. Class 1 Hall's original intention was to destroy you. If you want peace, sure. Kill yourself. The 3 Yin clan members of Crazed Manor will kill themselves. I'll leave the undying immortal world and give this place to Crazed Manor, Class 1 Hall's Hall Master said indifferently. Yi Qinghan frowned and looked at Class 1 Hall's Hall Master. He snorted and said, "You're forcing me. I won't kill myself, and neither will the 3 Yin clan members of Crazed Manor. If you really want to force me to the point of killing ancient gods and ancient immortals, then bring it on. No problem. I just want to remind you that if you don't agree, Crazed Manor might lose more than 4 people," the Hall Master said coldly. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and replied firmly, "So what? No matter how many people from Crazed Manor die, Class 1 Hall will die as well. Those who deserve to die will eventually die. Those who don't deserve to die will become emperors. Which of the Taigu emperors didn't step on corpses to get to where they are? They either kill or be killed." The Hall Master was cold and merciless. He did not care about the lives of the elite Hall disciples at all. Even if only one of the 36 people remained, he felt that it was worth it. Yi Qinghan silently looked at the Hall Master. Although he was reluctant to give up the lives of the Crazy Mansion brothers, could he really let Yen Ao and the others commit suicide at this point? If he were to die, would these people dare to say that they would spare the Crazed Manor? Can the war be stopped? The Quang clan has followed me for countless years. If they were afraid of death, they would have left a long time ago. I dare say that the Quang clan will repay me with their lives." Boom! Yi Qinghan slammed his palm on the stone table. With a wave of his hand, the war flag of the Quang Manor appeared in his hand and fluttered in the wind. Bang! Crack! The war flag was inserted into the stone table. It was 10 meters tall and swayed in the wind. It could be seen from far away. Whoosh! The 30 experts of the Quang Manor camp stood up. Some held the war flag of the ancient killing god, while others held the war flag of the inner sect. The war flag represented faith. As long as the war flag did not fall, their faith would not be extinguished. Yi Qinghan looked down at the Hall Master and said coldly, "If we win 16 battles, the ancient gods and ancient immortals will withdraw from the immortal world and live in peace for 1,000,000 years. Do you agree?" The Hall Master asked indifferently. "What if the elite Hall wins 16 battles?" I am willing to be a prisoner and follow you to the elite hall. From then on, the ancient immortal world and the immortal world will be cut off, and the Kuang Manor will never invade the ancient immortal world again. Yi Qinghan gambled his own fate. With the elite hall as the boundary, he would be imprisoned for eternity. He would not even have the ability to call himself an emperor. Clap, 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 the hall master clapped his hands and laughed. That is a good idea. You can't do anything in front of me. The immortal world was unable to support the birth of an eternal emperor. Order and laws did not allow it. Even the ancient celestial emperor had to enter the ancient immortal world if he wanted to condense two godhoods. Then, let's fight. Yi Qinghan turned and looked at the battlefield. Both sides were ready to die. This time, no one wanted to leave alive. We will take turns. The elite hall will not bully you. We will send someone first. You can send anyone you want, the hall master said. Axe Emperor's inheritance. Whoosh. Boom. The Axe Emperor wielded his gigantic axe and crushed the ground with every step he took. Boom. In Crazed Manor's camp, Shurgu stomped on the ground and held the golden brick. I will fight the first battle. Don't fight with me. The disheveled Shurgu looked like a madman. His voice was hoarse, but his will was firm. He stepped into the battlefield, not giving anyone else a chance. Yi Mingxi's eyes under the merciless Dao seal flashed with a strange light. Then, she slowly lowered her head and said mercilessly. She had already fallen deeply into it. Now, even if she wanted to come back, she could not. Shurgu against Axe Emperor. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom. His aura soared into the sky and rose crazily. A huge axe-shaped weapon condensed behind the Axe Emperor. F***ck off. Boom. Shurgu was furious. He shattered the clouds and shattered Axe Emperor's axe. The golden brick's laws and principles were unleashed. It covered the sky and the sun. Taigu Emperor's laws and principles. The pupils of both sides shrank. Shurgu, who had entered the demonic path, had actually comprehended the order and dharma and logos of the primordial emperor. The golden brick spun and formed rays of golden light that descended from the sky and covered the entire battlefield, not giving the Axe Monarch a chance to escape. Boom. Bang bang bang. Axe Emperor rose from the ground and slashed at the golden brick with his axe. However, the laws and principles of the Taigu Emperor's laws and principles were incomparably tough. It was not something an emperor's weapon could break. An indestructible axe against a golden brick that could block all attack. Both sides clashed and the earth shook. Mountains and rivers wailed. Everything was in mourning. Crack, crack, crack. Axe Emperor slashed dozens of times. The web between his thumb and index finger cracked, but he could not break Shurji's golden brick. Shurgu stepped on the golden brick and formed seals with his fingers. He commanded the laws and principles of the Taigu Emperor's laws and principles. Boom! The golden brick pressed down and smashed Axe Emperor into the ground. His leg bones were broken and blood stained the golden brick. Poochie! Axe Emperor spurted out blood and was smashed into the ground. More than one of his bones was broken. Whoosh! Shurgu waved his hand and the golden brick returned to his hand. He smashed it at Axe Emperor's head. Too strong. Shurgu was at the forefront. Indeed, the feelings of protection could create miracles. Boom! Axe Emperor lay in the deep pit and smashed his axe at the golden brick. With a loud boom, the axe was sent flying. Bang! The corner of the golden brick slammed into Axe Emperor's head. Blood splattered everywhere. His head was smashed and his skull was crushed. It was not that Axe Emperor was not strong. It was just that he could not break through Shurji's golden brick laws and principles. He could only take the beating. Chapter 2773. Boom! Boom boom boom! Shurgu pressed down on Axe Monarch, smashing him down one brick after another. Blood splattered everywhere, dyeing his body red. The golden bricks turned red, filled with dharma and order. Axe Monarch was smashed into a meat patty. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists, wild with joy. He was sure that if Shi Gu was given more time, he would be the most qualified emperor. F***ck your mother. Fight. Fight. Kill. 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 Shi Gu turned into a ferocious demon, attacking and cursing at the same time. Axe Monarch, who was a supremacy of Class 1 Hall, was smashed to death without even a chance to fight back. Watching the remaining 29 battles with this one battle, if one died in battle, he would definitely be humiliated and killed, without exception. Buzz, hum. The sound of the guqin was solemn and bleak, supporting crazed manner. Emperor Yi plucked the strings, causing the heavens and the earth to move and all laws to submit under her feet. The dharma and order around her was extremely powerful. This was not something she had forcefully mobilized, but the strongest dharma and order had voluntarily attached to her. The sound of the guqin made one's blood boil and their fighting spirit soar. More than 30 people from Crazed Manor sat on the mountain in different postures, but their determination to fight to the death was on full display. Axe Monarch was dead, and Shi Gu was victorious. The first battle was a bitter battle. Who won and who lost was too important. Yi Qinghan smiled and nodded in satisfaction. His figure flashed, and he appeared beside Yi Chentian. He hugged Yi Chentian and whispered a few words into his ear. Then, a faint golden light appeared in his palm, and a wisp of aura entered his body. Whoosh! In just a moment, Yi Qinghan returned to the top of the mountain. The Hall Master was cold. Even though Axe Monarch had died tragically, he did not feel the slightest bit of heartache. In his opinion, losing meant not being qualified to fight for the throne. If he could not fight for the throne, there was no point in living. I didn't expect Crazed Manor to have changed so much in the past 300 years. It's completely different from the information I received. You must have obtained the immemorial God space, the Hall Master said calmly. Yi Qinghan glanced at the Hall Master and replied, "This matter is no longer important." The Hall Master smiled silently and said in a low voice, "As far as I know, there are 3 primordial master spaces that can change the order of time. One is in the hands of the Divine Will Master God, another is in the hands of the Primordial Master God of Spacetime, and the last one is in the hands of Nothingness. I'm guessing that the ancient Celestial Emperor must have given you the Primordial Master Space." The Hall Master's eyes flashed with killing intent. He clenched his fist and shattered the surrounding space. Yi Qinghan said happily, "Yes, the ancient Heavenly Emperor gave it to me. Furthermore, he and I have discussed working together to deal with you." The Hall Master was taken aback. He had originally thought that Yi Qinghan would try to defend the ancient Heavenly Emperor, but who would have thought that Yi Qinghan would take the initiative to admit it? When he thought about how the ancient Emperor Academy had suddenly issued the strongest arrest warrant for Li Peiza and Su Zhan 30 years ago, he started to have some doubts. He wants to use me to kill the ancient Heavenly Emperor? He wants the ancient Emperor Academy and Class 1 Hall to fight each other so that he can reap the benefits? The Hall Master was deeply suspicious of Yi Qinghan's intentions. Everyone had their suspicions, and the Hall Master was also human. He could not see through everything and could not predict everything. Otherwise, why would he need to do this? Yi Qinghan was using the Hall Master's suspicions to protect the ancient Heavenly Emperor. "The Lord God space in your hands was stolen?" the Hall Master asked coldly. Yi Qinghan said firmly, "I already said that the ancient Heavenly Emperor gave it to me." "Humph." The Hall Master snorted. At this moment, he did not believe that the ancient Heavenly Emperor would give the Lord God space to Yi Qinghan. Who would choose to work with someone who could betray them at any time? The ancient Heavenly Emperor would not be so stupid to betray him in the next second. The ancient Heavenly Emperor knows that the Divine Will Master God's Lord God space is in your hands. I can already imagine what he would do. Be careful not to get killed, the hall master reminded coldly. Yi Qinghan laughed disdainfully and retorted, "Would he dare to kill me? Would you dare to let him kill me? Are you not afraid of sending me out of the 5 elements?" The hall master knew that Yi Qinghan's greatest advantage was that he could not be killed. He would not kill him unless he had no other choice. Only when he had no other choice would he gamble. Yi Qinghan looked at Shi Ge leaving the stage and swept his gaze across the crowd. The strongest person in Kuang Fu should be Yan Ao. If he won the second round, Kuang Fu's fighting spirit would be even stronger. "Yan Ao, you will fight this round," Yi Qinghan said firmly. Whoosh! Boom! Yan Ao's aura burst forth, giving off the aura of the number 1 emperor in the world. The hall master and the patrolman's pupils shrank. The killing intent in their eyes was self-evident. No one in Kuang Fu could die, but Yan Ao must die. The hall master knew that Yan Ao was the Flame Ancestor's backup plan. He had to use the backup plan to kill him. "Since you sent him to the battlefield, if I don't kill him, I would be letting you down." Boom! The void shattered, and a figure descended from the sky. He had an elegant bearing, and his emperor's aura danced in the air. He was only half a step away from the Taigu Emperor realm. There was still an expert in Kuang Fu. "Yunlang, this is my personal disciple. I wonder if Sect Master Yi will take a liking to him?" The hall master sneered. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and narrowed his eyes at Yunlang. That person's aura was too strong. He should be on par with the old reincarnation Shakyamuni. As long as he fought to the death, he would have the strength of the Taigu Emperor. Could Yan Ao win? At this moment, Yan Ao put his palms together and crossed them. Blood flowed from his 10 fingers. The aura of the Yan clan's ancestral blood filled the air. The Emperor's aura soared into the sky and clashed with the Emperor's aura. Yan Ao was chanting an incantation, and it became more and more urgent. The wind and clouds surged. Hum! 10,000 swords roared, wanting to be unsheathed. Many people held their life swords tightly. Only the immemorial yin-yang sword remained unmoved. Whoosh! 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 10,000 swords danced, cutting through the sky. The sword in Yi Qingxing's hand missed, and even the hilt flew out. Just as Yan Ao was chanting, a sword light rushed out from the Crying Ghost mountain range. Hum! The sword chi shattered the void, and the sword light tore through the magnetic field of the Crying Ghost mountain range. Almost at the same time, in the ancestral land of the Yan clan in the ancient immortal world, the reincarnation soared beside the corpse of reincarnation Shakyamuni, the Yan clan's earth sword, and the Yan clan's heaven sword all broke through the void. They were so fast that even the laws of order could not stop these 5 swords. Heaven, earth, human, emperor, reincarnation. The Yan clan's 5 swords shuttled through the void and returned to their positions on Yan Ao's back as if they were fixed in place. Whoosh! The 10,000 swords returned and the phenomenon disappeared. Yan Ao summoned the Yan clan's 5 swords back. He raised his head and looked at Yunlang coldly. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was the world's number 1 emperor. "Patrol, kill him!" Boom! The hall master could not control Yan Ao anymore. Yan Ao had lost control. The Yan clan's backup plan was indeed terrifying. "You dare!" Yi Qinghan's palm covered the sky, standing outside the laws of order. His chi soared to the sky. Although he had not become an emperor, he was indeed standing outside the laws of order. "If you want to play, I'll accompany you. If you want to fight to the death, I'll accompany you. If you dare to attack, I guarantee that the inheritance of the ancient gods and immortals will be broken." Yi Qinghan's eyes were filled with the light of nirvanic extermination, intimidating all eternity. Chapter 2774. I was too tired earlier, so I went to take a nap. I don't have enough sleep every day. Sorry, but I will persevere until the end. I will fight until the end. The Hall Master was shocked. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to already be outside the laws. Even though it was just half a step away, it was still very scary. Whoosh, whoosh, buzz, the void shook and the laws retreated. Yi Qinghan appeared on the battlefield, coldly staring at the patrol. Just at this moment, a pair of eyes looked down on the ground. It came from an unknown direction and stared at the patrol, staring at the entire battlefield. It was impossible for the Yen clan to only have one trump card. As expected, when the Hall Master shed all pretense of cordiality, someone appeared. The Taigu Emperor. The Taigu Emperor of the Yen clan. However, he didn't dare to show himself because he was no match for the Hall Master. As soon as he showed himself, the Hall Master would be able to track him down. That pair of eyes flashed as he watched Yi Qinghan stand outside the Dharma and Logos before retreating. He was just one step away from forcing out the Yen clan's trump card. The Hall Master did not expect Yi Qinghan to leave the 5 elements in advance and stand outside the laws. That trump card also left. Fight well. Out of the 30 rounds, we lost 16. Naturally, I will go with you. If I win, don't think about it. Unless you dare to bet that you will definitely break my Tao heart. Yi Qinghan coldly looked at the Hall Master's projection on the mountaintop and reminded them. Whoosh! Yen Ao slowly stepped onto the battlefield. He had the Yen clan's heaven, earth, and human sovereign reincarnation sword. His aura was majestic, and his disdainful eyes were comparable to the world's #1 emperor. The world's #1 emperor! The Hall Master took a deep breath. He could sense the Yen Emperor's aura from Yen Ao. Could it be that the Yen Emperor has turned around? The Hall Master stared at Yen Ao in disbelief. He could predict many things, but there were also many things that he couldn't predict. For example, Yen Zhu's backup plan and Yi Qinghan. No matter how strong Yun Lang was, he couldn't be stronger than the #1 emperor in the world. Other than the Taigu Emperor, no one else could win, not even the Tao Patrol. Back then, the Yen Emperor had swept through the immortal generals and immortal generals when he was at the peak of his 4th form, fighting against the Taigu Emperor. Both sides suffered heavy injuries, but he didn't fall. That was the faith and belief of the Yen tribe. Hiss! The Hall Master sucked in a breath of cold air. He waved his hand to signal the patrol and said coldly, "Stand down. Let Yun Lang hit you." When the patrol officer retreated, Yi Qinghan naturally followed suit. Yun Lang looked disdainfully at the masses. He did not believe that the first emperor of the world would not be defeated. Moreover, Yen Ao was not the #1 emperor under the heavens. Even if the Flame Emperor is here, I still dare to defeat him, Yun Lang said confidently as he took out a towering battle sword. His emperor robe fluttered as he slowly descended. Yen Ao didn't reply. He formed a seal with his hands and the 5 swords of the imperial heaven, earth, and human sovereign were unsheathed. The 5 swords soared into the sky and turned into 5 lightning dragons that tore through the void. They attacked Yun Lang from 5 different directions. Ring! Swoosh! Swoosh! The 5 swords tore through the void. Although Yen Ao's heart moved, the mountains and rivers trembled. Boom! Ring! Yun Lang's sword moved according to his heart's desire. His graceful movement and sharp sword moves continuously struck the 5 swords of the Yen tribe. At the beginning, he was calm and unhurried as he fought against the 5 swords of the Yen tribe. Boom! When the Emperor's swords collided, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. Ring! Yun Lang defeated the Earth Sword and the back of the sword hit the Reincarnation Sword. The Emperor's sword trembled. His body twisted to dodge the attacks of the human realm and Heaven's sword. His sword was graceful as it pierced towards Yen Ao's body. It was too fast. Even in the immemorial era, these 2 people's strength was at the 2nd stage. Buzz! Yen Ao didn't even blink. He formed a seal with his hands and chanted an incantation. The 5 swords of the imperial heaven, earth, and human sovereign appeared in front of him and formed a strange sword array that was like a mouth that could swallow the sky. Boom! Yun Lang's sword pierced into the sword array. His boundless strength couldn't even cause a ripple. Bang! Crack! The 5 swords stirred the mountains and rivers. 3 swords suppressed the Emperor's swords in Yun Lang's hands. The remaining 2 swords seized the air and drew a sword light that swayed into the galaxy. The sword edge directly cut towards Yun Lang's neck. Whoosh! Yun Lang's reaction was extremely fast. His body lowered and his neck tilted back, dodging the 2 soul-stirring swords. However, a strand of his hair was cut off. Countless people stared at the battlefield. The battle between the 2 of them was truly soul-stirring. Every sword move contained the order of laws and logos. Once an emperor technique hit the opponent, it would definitely injure the opponent severely. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. No one was more nervous than him. If it was him, perhaps he wouldn't be so tired. Ring! Whoosh! The sword light shattered the mountains and rivers. Yen Clan's 5 swords erupted with their ancient might in Yen Ao's hands. Every sword could steal a soul from 1,000 miles away. Bang! Bang! The bones in Yun Lang's hands were shattered. No matter how fast he was, he couldn't withstand the 5 swords. Pucci! Finally, as time passed, the heavenly sword pierced through the emperor robe and took away a piece of flesh from Yun Lang's left arm. Ah! Yun Lang roared. His sword moved in all directions and knocked away the 5 swords. However, the bones in his hand were clearly visible. The impact was too strong. However, as time passed, Yen Ao's ability to control the 5 swords became stronger and stronger. His battle prowess continued to rise. After the 5 swords were knocked away, they drew an arc and quickly returned to Yun Lang's side to reform the sword array. The sword array was ever-changing. It connected the heavens and the earth and affected the sun, moon, and stars. It contained the supreme laws and logos of heaven and earth. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Yen Ao suppressed Yun Lang, which finally allowed him to breathe a sigh of relief. However, the shocking sword moves of these 2 were too terrifying. They could turn the tables at any time. Yi Chenxing and Hua Lingtian's veins were bulging. The true successor of Yen Clan was Yen Ao. He was the true sovereign that Yen ancestor had set up after countless years. Nothing must happen to him. At this moment, the 2 of them were watching Yen Ao display his sword moves and silently learning. Every move contained the supreme laws and logos of human Tao. The power of human Tao connected the heavens and the earth and changed the order of the stars. Boom! Yen Ao began to counterattack. He controlled the 5 swords at the same time. His soul was also heaven-defying. His powerful qi and blood supported him. Bang! Bang! Ring! Yun Lang's defeat became more and more obvious. His Tao heart rumbled. When the Taigu Emperor was young, no one was his opponent in Elite Hall. However, he was defeated the moment he came out. How could he be willing to accept this? Roar! Ah! Yun Lang's emperor robe was dyed red with his own blood. Yen Ao wasn't injured at all. He should be glad that Yen Ao wasn't Yen Emperor. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the chance to resist. Bang! The 5 swords chased after Yun Lang from 5 directions, wanting to take advantage of the situation and kill him. Whoosh! Yun Lang was a top-tier expert after all. His body sank and charged towards the ground. Flames surged around him. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 5 swords seized the air and chased after the ground. Bang! Bang! Yun Lang was sinking, but the sword in his hand kept on attacking the 5 swords of heaven, earth, and human emperor. Sparks flew everywhere. He lost control of his body and crashed into the ground. At this moment, the combat power of the 2 of them suppressed all the experts, causing their Tao heart to rumble. The 2 of them were definitely young paragons. If Yun Lang didn't die, he could easily become an emperor. However, it was a pity that he had to face Yen Ao today, an existence comparable to the number 1 emperor in the world. Boom! Yunlang's hand bones were broken. The emperor's sword whistled and smashed into the ground. Whoosh! Whoosh! Both of Yen Ao's hands changed into 2 hand seals. Law incantations rumbled. Each of his swords slashed out an imprint that ruthlessly pierced through 10,000 laws and directly penetrated Yunlang's body. Even the emperor's robe couldn't block the 5 sword attacks. Whoosh! Boom! Yunlang was hit by the 5 swords at the foot of the mountain where Yi Qinghan was standing, causing the mountain to shake. Ring! Whoosh! After killing Yunlang, the 5 swords of Yen clan pierced through the clouds and returned to Yen Ao. They formed a sword formation that was like a black hole. At this moment, Yen Ao could kill gods if gods came. In at most 3,000 years, Yen Ao would become an existence like Yen Emperor. In 30,000 years, he could become an emperor. Chapter 2775. I won't write about every battle, but I definitely have to write about the early stages. Everyone from the older generation is a key figure, so I can't just casually say that they died in battle. That would be a bit ridiculous. 2 battles, 2 victories. The strongest disciple of Class 1 Hall was dead, stabbed to death by 5 swords. His blood and chi were extinguished, and his vitality was scattered. Roar! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Everyone from Quang Manor stood up, waving the banners in their hands. Their roars filled the sky, and their battle intent soared. Quang Manor's aura suppressed the ancient gods and ancient immortals, causing them to fall silent. There was nothing they could do. Dong dong dong. The 5 million troops of the expedition to the heavens trampled through mountains and rivers, arriving outside the plains. The war drums boomed, supporting Quang Manor. Whoosh! 300,000 ancient killing gods, both inner and outer sect, came. Their banners danced in the air. None of them were afraid of death. If they were afraid of death, they wouldn't have come. At the peak, they would receive hypocritical support. At the decline, they would meet loyal brothers. Yi Qinghan wasn't at the peak at the moment, and he was at an absolute disadvantage. However, he had many more die-hard loyalists than Class 1 Hall. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Yi Qinghan gripped the war flag on the stone table and pulled it out. He raised the war flag and roared, "Fight! Fight! Fight! Fight!" More than 30 big shots of Quang Manor roared, and their banners echoed. The 5 million troops of the expedition to the heavens and the million soldiers of Quang Manor shouted together, shaking the 9 heavens. At this moment, Yi Qinghan felt that he had no regrets in his life. Even if he really died in battle today, he would have no regrets. At this moment, even the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall was envious. Stop the battle! Stop the battle! Countless living beings gathered from afar. They wanted to borrow Yi Qinghan's power to force Class 1 Hall to stop the battle and restore peace to the immortal world. Peace! Peace! The cries of all living beings and the unity of their beliefs was also a considerable force. However, Class 1 Hall's Hall Master was fighting for the inheritance of the ancient gods and immortals. Why would he care about these ants? The Hall Master waved his hand, and the pressure of heaven and earth surged, directly shaking all living beings, directly pressing them to kneel on the ground, coughing blood non-stop. They did not even have the courage to raise their heads. All was silent. No one dared to call for a ceasefire and peace. These people could only take advantage of the situation. However, the experts had all fled. It was useless to rely on these people who could not escape. The inheritor of the heaven-shaking staff. Whoosh! Whoosh! The inheritor of the heaven-shocking staff stepped forward and looked at Quang Fu arrogantly. From this moment on, Class 1 Hall is victorious. Hum! With a shake of the golden staff, the void shattered. Ha ha ha! Chitian Monkey King raised his head and laughed heartily. He slowly stood up and waved his hand. The battle rod appeared in his hand and he said domineeringly, No one is allowed to snatch this battle from me. Stick against stick. Chitian Monkey King immediately revealed his original form. He had a skinny monkey body and golden fur that was as tough as steel needles. His eyes could see through everything and his body was light. With a flash, he appeared on the battlefield. The staff Tao rumbled. One was the equal Heaven Monkey King, and the other was the inheritor of the Heaven Shocking Staff. Both of them were extreme Tao experts. He didn't waste any time talking and directly raised his staff to fight. Boom boom boom, buzz! The staff collided with each other, causing the sky to tremble. Even the battle rods were bent. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of moves had been exchanged. Sometimes, the two of them didn't even bother to dodge. The staff pierced into their flesh, causing their flesh to split open and blood to spurt out. Thud thud thud. Puff! The two of them only used a moment to stain the ground with blood. However, neither of them retreated. The staff shook the heavens. The staff flattened the sky. This was a battle where both sides would suffer. Class 1 Hall wanted to win, but Kwang Fu wanted the Monkey King to live. Chitian Monkey King had followed Yi Qinghan since he was young to fight against the undead. He had fought with Kwang Fu all the way until now. Their brotherhood was strong, and no one wanted him to die in battle. Da-da-da. Boom! The two of them separated and clashed again. Both of them were fighting for the belief that they wouldn't lose. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He couldn't help but close his eyes as he watched Chitian Monkey King's flesh and blood splatter across the land. This battle could have been avoided, but Yen Zhu's backup plan didn't appear. Even now, he still didn't know who the Yen tribe's Taigu Emperor was. If there's someone who can fight against Class 1 Hall's Hall Master, I'll lose to the Tao Patrol. Kwang Fu might be able to suppress the ancient gods and ancient immortals. Yi Qinghan's heart ached. The heaven-shocking staff had hit Chitian Monkey King's body, but it had also hit his own heart. He was fighting for Kwang Fu, and Kwang Fu cherished his life for him. Chitian Monkey King lived for the Tao, and even if he died, he wouldn't regret it. The inheritor of the heaven-shocking staff was covered in blood. His eyes were ferocious as he fought, but how could Chitian Monkey King be weak? This battle was evenly matched. Unlike the previous two battles, where both sides had a huge advantage. Now, both sides were injured. It all depended on who could last until the end. Woo-woo-woo plus, crack. The staff pierced through the clouds and swept across thousands of miles. At the same time, it smashed into the bones of the opponent's hand. In an instant, the bones in the hand broke, and the opponent's body was sent flying, crashing into the crowd of opponents. It's a draw. How about it? Yi Qinghan asked in a low voice. The Hall Master replied quietly, We won't rest until one of us dies. Won't rest until one of us dies. Yi Qinghan cherished his life, but the Hall Master didn't. If one inheritor died, there would be another. However, every death of the older generation of Kwang Fu meant one less. The more people that died, the easier it would be for Yi Qinghan's Tao heart to shatter. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He was extremely angry, but he had no choice but to endure it. Roar. Chitian Monkey King struggled to stand up. His domineering aura soared into the sky, and his fierce eyes shone with an undefeatable battle intent. His left hand was broken, but his right hand wasn't. However, the inheritor of the heaven-shocking staff had broken his hand. Boom! Chitian Monkey King charged out again, and his staff pierced through the sky. The staff trembled in the air, shattering the void. Bang! The inheritor of the heaven-shocking staff was filled with the will to die. If he didn't defeat Chitian Monkey King today, he would definitely die. Even if Kwang Fu didn't kill him, Class 1 Hall would. Only by killing Chitian Monkey King would he have a chance to live. Therefore, he no longer dodged and allowed Chitian Monkey King's staff to pierce his chest. At the same time, his heaven-shocking staff also shattered the void and pierced Chitian Monkey King's chest. Poochie! Boom! Both of their staffs flew out of their hands. Perishing together? This was a draw. However, both of them were struck at the same time, and it was a fatal blow. Yi Qinghan looked at his iron fist and held his breath as he looked at the sky. His tears still didn't flow back, and they flowed down his mask. Boom! Qitian Monkey King and the inheritor of the Heaven's shocking staff fell heavily at the same time, flying dozens of meters away. Whoosh! Chu Shijun leaped up and directly pulled out the Heaven's shocking staff from Qitian Monkey King's body. He threw the Heaven's shocking staff away, and then took out a Taigu Emperor pill and injected half of it into the wound. He then struck out dozens of times and forcefully seized a small portion of Qitian Monkey King's life force. Qitian Monkey King was like a lamp without oil, and the Heaven's shocking medicine was used to prolong his life. It was extremely tragic. The third battle was a draw. If Qitian Monkey King didn't have the Heaven's shocking staff to prolong his life, he would have died. However, the inheritor of the Heaven's shocking staff didn't have the Heaven's shocking staff to prolong his life. It was impossible for Class 1 Hall to waste the Heaven's shocking staff on him. Yi Qinghan looked at Chu Shijun using the Heaven's shocking medicine to prolong Qitian Monkey King's life, and couldn't help but exhale. It's still a draw. Class 1 Hall lost a person for no reason. What's the point? Yi Qinghan said coldly. A hint of killing intent appeared on Class 1 Hall's Hall Master's face under the mask, but he didn't lose control. He only replied coldly, "It's just an inheritance of an emperor weapon. So what if he died? There's nothing to feel sorry for." In other words, he didn't care. Yi Qinghan looked at the Hall Master coldly and didn't say anything else. "Yi Chentian, fight," Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Everyone in Guangfu was shocked. Even Emperor Yi looked at Yi Qinghan. He didn't understand why he sent Yi Chentian to fight. Although this little guy was strong, he definitely wasn't ranked in the middle among the older generation of Guangfu. Chapter 2776. Everyone from the Crazy Manor was shocked. Letting Yi Chentian fight was equivalent to sending him to his death. Boss, think twice. Yan Ao and the others tried to persuade Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan wasn't afraid of death. Every time, he would stand at the very front. This time, he couldn't take action. He couldn't let his own son die. Boss, let me fight. Boss, let me fight. Jiang Jingtian, Emperor Feng, and the others asked to fight. Even if they had to die for Yi Chentian, they would not hesitate. Yi Qinghan shook his head and looked resolutely at Yi Chentian. He said in a deep voice, "Don't embarrass me. You fight." Yi Chentian nodded solemnly. He was not afraid of death and stepped forward. The Hall Master smiled silently. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to do such a foolish thing. It seemed like he was confused by the Qitian Monkey King's injury. Ancient River Inheritor, accept the challenge. The Hall Master's eyes flashed fiercely. He was determined to take Yi Chentian's life. The Ancient River Inheritor held the immemorial Ancient River Emperor weapon in his hand. It was a long spear. The tip of the spear shone brightly and appeared on the battlefield. Just as he was about to attack, Yi Chentian's aura shook. A colorful snake, a divine bird, and countless green vines appeared on his body. The colorful snake, the star-twining vine, and the divine bird were all given to Yi Chentian by Yi Qinghan. No wonder Yi Qinghan hugged Yi Chentian earlier. It turned out that he had removed the contracts of the 3 divine pets and handed them to Yi Chentian. Whoosh! The colorful snake and the divine bird transformed at the same time. The colorful snake looked ferocious as if it wanted to eat someone, while the divine bird looked like a wretched kid. "Hey, Sun Ti, why aren't you kneeling when you see me?" Supreme Yi said proudly with his head held high. The Ancient River Inheritor frowned. He did not know which faction this was, but his calm heart was angered by Supreme Ye's words. "Bastard, you're courting death!" The Ancient River Inheritor scolded angrily. Supreme Yi pointed at Gu He and scolded, You're worse than a bastard. A son doesn't think his mother is ugly, and a dog doesn't think his family is poor. You're worse than a bastard, and you don't even recognize me as your grandfather. Hum. Hum. The ancient river's successor was enraged. The long spear in his hand trembled, and Emperor Arts surged around him. Killing intent filled the air. Wait. I was joking with you. Sovereign Yi shrunk his head and immediately ran behind Yi Chentian. Shrinking his head, he said, "Left and right guardians, go." The colorful snake licked the corner of its mouth. That man-eating expression and malicious gaze didn't look like a good person at all. "I want to eat your flesh. Lie down," the multicolored snake said domineeringly. Cough cough, everyone from the crazed manor was speechless. They could not understand why Yi Qinghan would make such an arrangement. These two were clearly here to be a joke. How could they compare to the inheritors of the imperial armament? No matter how he looked at it, it didn't seem like he could defeat the ancient river's inheritor. After all, that spear was a true emperor weapon. Clowns! The patrolman snorted coldly. "Kill them! Leave no one alive! Jump my ass! Kill my ass!" Supreme Yi and the colorful snake immediately cursed. How dare he scold the Taigu Emperor? The two of them almost made the patrolman jump in anger. "You two are courting death." The patrolman glared at the two of them viciously. He almost pulled out the imperial sword in his hand. "Io, boss, you're trying to bully us." Supreme Yi and the colorful snake immediately looked at Yi Qinghan with a pitiful expression. As expected, these two were not here to fight. They were here to anger the patrolman and the ancient river's inheritor. The ancient river's inheritor and the patrolman's Tao hearts were shaken. The patrolman roared, "Ancient river's inheritor, are you waiting to die?" The ancient river's inheritor was anxious. He didn't care anymore. He raised his spear and charged toward Yi Chentian. His aura was majestic. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Countless vines suddenly soared into the sky. The imperial immortal finger technique was executed. Its power shook the surroundings. In the blink of an eye, it pierced through the void and wrapped around the Taigu Emperor's spear and the ancient river's inheritor's limbs and waist. Whoosh, whoosh. Yi Chentian rose from the ground and slammed his palm into the sky. Roar, whoosh. The beast god's aura was vast and mighty. The colorful snake turned into a swimming dragon and soared into the sky. Its fangs tore everything apart. Supreme Yi spat out a mouthful of fire, interfering with the ancient river's inheritor's vision and spiritual power from afar. Boom! Bang! Bang! The Taigu Emperor's spear pierced through the void. In the blink of an eye, it shattered the star-twining vines and pierced toward Yi Chentian's palm. However, at this moment, his vision was blocked by Supreme Yi. His main focus was also on Yi Chentian. The colorful snake's fangs pierced through his battle robe and bit the ancient river's inheritor's thigh. The indestructible poisonous fangs tore out a large mouthful of blood. Poochie! Yi Chentian didn't even think of dodging. Instead, he faced the attack head-on. The Emperor's spear pierced through his palm and almost pierced through his arm. The ancient river's inheritor roared and slapped his thigh. However, the colorful snake tore off a large piece of flesh from his thigh. In the blink of an eye, it retreated to the back. Its mouth was still smacking with flesh and blood. It was extremely eerie. Delicious, the colorful snake touched its mouth and stared coldly at the ancient river's inheritor. The ancient river's inheritor's palm didn't hit the colorful snake. Instead, it hit his own thigh and almost broke it. Yi Chentian wasn't the strongest in the crazy manner. However, Supreme Yi and the colorful snake had worked together to enrage the Tao Inspector and the ancient river's inheritor. When the Tao Inspector ordered the ancient river's inheritor to attack, the ancient river's inheritor didn't even have time to gather his power. In addition, Yi Chentian had purposely baited him. At the cost of being injured, the ancient river's inheritor was also injured. A large piece of flesh was eaten by the colorful snake. At this moment, the anger in the ancient river's inheritor's eyes had solidified. Is the flesh and blood of this grandson delicious? Supreme Yi grinned. The colorful snake nodded seriously and said, Next time, I'll eat his heart. Huff! The ancient river's inheritor sucked in a breath of cold air. He had never seen a transformed beast eat human flesh. You all deserve to die. The ancient river's inheritor roared, his power soaring to the 9 heavens. At this moment Yi Chuntian crawled up from the ground. His right arm was crippled, but he didn't regret it. This battle was to lure the strongest out and pave the way for the crazy manor. He didn't care if he died today. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The star-twisting vine attacked first again. Countless vines grabbed the air. Even the ancient river's inheritor would need time to break these vines. Yi Chuntian took the initiative to attack, luring the ancient river's inheritor to attack. Divine Bird Supreme Yi cursed from the side and used flames to block the ancient river's vision. Whoosh! The colorful snake took the air and transformed into its original form to attack the ancient river's inheritor. It turned right along the ancient river's inheritor's body, and its fangs could even pierce through the Emperor Law. It rushed directly to the ancient river's inheritor's lower body and bit down on his family jewels. He wanted to use this opportunity to kill Yi Chuntian, but he didn't expect the colorful snake to bite there. He immediately retracted his hand and grabbed the colorful snake. Crack! The colorful snake tore apart his pants and only took a small piece of flesh. It didn't hurt his family jewels. He felt a chill in his pants and immediately tightened his legs. Ha 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 ha, what a small doryman. So what if this guy is an emperor? Can he give birth? Supreme Yi stared at the ancient river's inheritor's pants and laughed. Ha 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 ha, everyone from the crazy manor laughed. This time, the ancient river's inheritor was completely confused and lost his mind. Chapter 2777. One more chapter. Fight. Yi Chuntian used his life to attract He's inheritor. The multicolored snake was in charge of killing him, while the star-twisting vine and Supreme Yi were in charge of restraining He's inheritor. This was an extremely risky battle. He fainted from anger. In a battle between experts, who would aim for his genitals. Most importantly, the multicolored snake wanted to eat him. You all deserve to die. He's inheritor roared. Supreme Yi laughed out loud. This grandson is angry from embarrassment. Isn't it just because Doryman is small? It's fine if she can't have children. My boss is weak in everything. He will definitely fill your house with children. Supreme Yi was infuriating, and his words were incomparably vicious. The multicolored snake transformed again and said regretfully, Damn, it's too small. I didn't bite you. Be careful next time. Pooh. He's inheritor was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. His immortal spiritual energy transformed into a battle robe, but he still felt a chill in his crotch. Especially when he saw the multicolored snake's gaze, he couldn't help but feel his hair stand on end. All of this was within Yi Chuntian's calculations. His plan was extremely vicious. No matter if it was he or anyone else, they would all die miserably. However, Yi Chuntian might also die miserably. However, he had no choice but to use his own son as bait. You can't trap a wolf without risking your child. Was Yi Chuntian ruthless? Not at all. He even felt heartache. Yi Chuntian stood at the peak of the mountain and watched Yi Chuntian rush up once again. He was very satisfied. Others expected better from him, but he was really satisfied. Like father, like son. This son of his did not disappoint him. Boom. Yi Chuntian used his body to attract He's inheritor. Countless vines wrapped around the air and grabbed He's inheritor's limbs. This time they grabbed him tightly. Shio. Poochie. Yi Chuntian didn't manage to dodge the spear. His chest was pierced through, but the star-twisting vine instantly dragged him back. Blood splattered everywhere. At the same time, Yi Chintian and Gu He's inheritor roared in the air. One was holding his chest and the other was holding his crotch. The multicolored snake was too fast. It directly bit down on Gu He's groin. This time, it was fast and ruthless. Although it was small, it was uprooted. Howl! Gu He's inheritor clutched his crotch and screamed miserably. The spear pierced through the void and charged straight at Supreme Yi. Whoosh! Supreme Yi's figure flashed, and he kept shuttling back and forth across the battlefield. Meanwhile, the star-twisting vine wrapped around the Taigu Emperor's spear. Buzz! This time, the monarch's spear took the initiative to awaken, unleashing a vast monarch aura. Puchi! The spear pierced through the void, and the force penetrated Yi Chintian's chest and limbs. It even sent Sovereign Yi flying. The countless vines of the star-twining vine used the imperial immortal finger technique, and the force was quite strong, sending the imperial spear flying. However, the Taigu Emperor's spear took the initiative to attack again. The star-twisting vine risked its life by controlling its green vines to entangle the Taigu Emperor's spear. Its main body was brought into the void by the Taigu Emperor's spear. Bang bang bang! The vines were constantly being broken, but they continued to advance. Although Yi Qinghan's body had been pierced by the energy, he was still as crazy as he was. Using the undying spirit of Yi Qinghan, he took the initiative to attack the ancient river inheritor. Boom boom boom! The two men's fists collided, their fists intertwined and landed on each other's faces. Bang bang bang! Crack crack crack! The bridge of their noses was broken, but the two men were entangled together. Their iron fists controlled order and dharma and logos, and each of their fists smashed their opponent's flesh and blood. At this moment, Supreme Yi got up and charged into the battle between the two men. He viciously kicked the ancient river inheritor's crotch. Bang! Gu He's successor let out a blood-curdling scream as he conveniently kicked Supremacy Yi in the chest, sending him flying several hundred meters away. Puchi! The colorful snake bit the ancient river inheritor's waist. His battle robe was torn apart, and a large mouthful of blood essence was sucked out. 3 against 1. Yi Chintian gripped the ancient river inheritor's arms tightly and roared, "Kill! Puchi!" Hiss hiss hiss. The colorful snake bit with all its might and charged into the ancient river inheritor's body, devouring his flesh and blood. Boom! The ancient river inheritor was in extreme pain. He viciously swung his arm and broke Yi Chintian's wrist, sending him flying. His right hand pierced into his own body and pulled the colorful snake out. Boom! The ancient river inheritor's palm landed on the colorful snake's body, causing its skin to split open. Bang! After Supreme Yi was sent flying, he actually got up again. This was the first time he wasn't afraid of death in a battle to the death. He used the divine ability of the beast god cannon and turned into a ferocious tiger. His small fist landed on the ancient river inheritor's throat. Crack! Puchi! The ancient river inheritor was almost suffocated by this punch. His body involuntarily flew backward. Puchi! Crack! Yi Chintian desperately rushed forward and used his elbow to smash the ancient river inheritor's head. It hit the back of his head, breaking his elbow and skull at the same time. It could be seen how fierce Yi Chintian was. The ancient river inheritor's furious punch landed on Yi Chintian's neck, almost breaking his neck. The colorful snake's speed slowed down quite a bit, but it was still fighting with all its might. Its man-eating eyes shone again. Its venomous fangs shattered the order and bit through the ancient river inheritor's eyes. Roar! Supreme Yi punched his throat at the same time, breaking it completely. Puchi! The ancient river inheritor coughed out blood. He used his right hand to deliver a final punch, sending the divine bird flying. However, His right arm fell limply to the ground. Half of his head was eaten by the colorful snake. The ancient river inheritor was definitely one of the best in Class 1 Hall, but he died in their hands. It was truly a pity. However, Yi Chen-tian, Supreme Yi, the colorful snake, and the star-twining vine were even more miserable. They were almost smashed to death. The star-twining vine was still madly entangling the Taigu Emperor's spear. Countless vines were snapped and soon, the vine's body was injured. However, the ancient river inheritor was dead. Roar! Boom! Yi Qinghan reversed the order of laws and threw a punch at the Taigu Emperor's spear, sending it flying countless miles away. The Taigu Emperor's spear was directly smashed into the depths of the starry sky. The patrolman was flustered and exasperated. Supreme Yi, the colorful snake, and Yi Chen-tian were all alive. What are you doing? How dare you interfere in the battle? Are you trying to force my hand? The patrolman's killing intent surged as he questioned coldly. Yi Qinghan raised his head to look at the patrolman. His dragon and tiger aura soared to the sky as he replied coldly, "The ancient river inheritor is already dead. The Taigu Emperor is fighting again. That's not fair." "What's not fair?" the patrolman asked coldly. Yi Qinghan sneered. He waved his hand and took out the human Tao Emperor Pagoda. Its aura soared to the sky. "You mean you can destroy the human Tao Emperor Pagoda?" Yi Qinghan stepped forward domineeringly and glared at the patrolman. He said coldly, "Why don't we fight? I want to see if the Taigu Emperor is really that strong." "You think I won't dare?" The patrolman was furious. He drew his emperor's sword and pierced through the order of the void. In the blink of an eye, it was right in front of Yi Qinghan. Roar! Boom! The emperor's sword roared and all laws bowed down. Bam! Yi Qinghan reversed the emperor's immortal finger, and his strength caused the order of all laws to crumble. He controlled the bottom of the human Tao Emperor Pagoda and slammed it onto the Taigu Emperor's sword. This Emperor's sword was obviously not as strong as the real Taigu Emperor's weapon. It was bent by the overwhelming strength, and the human Tao Emperor Pagoda came to life and shattered the Emperor's sword. Boom! The patrolman changed his moves quickly and slammed his palm onto the bottom of the pagoda. The terrifying power of the Taigu Emperor passed through the human Tao Emperor Pagoda and clashed with Yi Qinghan's immortal finger. The ground beneath their feet cracked, and the undying immortal world was torn apart. Hundreds of bottomless chasms formed, and the undying immortal world was almost destroyed. Bam bam bam! Yi Qinghan retreated hundreds of steps. He was not at the Taigu Emperor's realm after all. His bones were twisted by the Emperor's power, but his dharma and logos were quickly purified by the reversal of his flesh. He was not seriously injured, and only spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 2778. Thanks to a gang, oath, and obsession for helping. A gang sent 70,000 book coins, oath sent 50,000. Obsession sent 10,000 book coins, and dozens of brothers and sisters tipped me. It's too much, so I won't thank you one by one. It's over for today, we'll fight again tomorrow. Yi Qinghan and the Tao Inspector exchanged blows, both using their full strength. The imperial sword shattered, and Yi Qinghan was sent flying while coughing up blood. The Hall Master of Class 1 Hall did not stop them. Instead, he watched the battlefield coldly. The ground was torn apart. Given their battle prowess, the undying immortal world would really be torn apart. The people of Crazed Manor and the ancient gods and ancient immortals all retreated. Everything within 1,000 miles was within the range of the shockwave. Many living beings were slaughtered by this attack, dying tragically on the spot. Wails and screams filled the void. The 5 million troops formed a formation and blocked the shockwaves together. No one was injured, but the mountain that Crazed Manor had been on was flattened. Thud thud thud. Yi Qinghan retreated more than 100 steps, his face twisted. He glared at the Dao inspector and said hoarsely, "According to what you said, you can fight with the human Dao Emperor Pagoda." The Dao inspector sneered and said disdainfully, "You think I can't defeat you just because you have the human Dao Emperor Pagoda? Let's fight at the Void Ridge." Yi Qinghan said domineeringly. Crack! The Dao inspector's aura burst forth, his imperial might vast and mighty. His killing intent soared to the sky. He said coldly, "You think you're the #1 emperor in the world? If I don't beat you until you kneel and beg for mercy today, I'll take your surname. Then let's fight at the Void Ridge. This battle will be counted as one of the 30 deathmatch." Yi Qinghan's domineering aura soared to the sky. Although he did not have a suitable cultivation technique, he could still fight an imperial emperor with the reversal of human Dao and the imperial immortal finger. Most importantly, ordinary laws and principles could hardly hurt him. With the help of the human Dao Emperor Pagoda, he could fight to the death with the Dao Inspector. All ancient gods and ancient immortals, to the Void Ridge. The Dao Inspector soared into the sky and took the lead in the direction of the Void Ridge. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. All ancient gods and ancient immortals charged towards the Void Ridge. The people of Quang Manor had yet to move, waiting for Yi Qinghan to give the order. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and said solemnly, "Send Chen Tian back to recuperate. All the brothers and sisters of the Crazy Manor will head to the Void Ridge. Out of the 30 matches, we have won 3 matches and tied 1 match. Our chances of winning are very high. Also, Yen Ao, come here." Whoosh! Yen Ao walked over and was embraced by Yi Qinghan. The Lord God's space appeared in Yi Qinghan's embrace as he whispered, "The Yen ancestors' arms, ears, and eyes are all inside. Refine them all and settle them down before going to the Void Ridge. I can buy 300 years, which is equivalent to 30,000 years in the Lord God's space." Yen Ao took a deep breath and nodded repeatedly. Dozens of experts from the inner sect rushed out and took Yi Qinghan away. Even the divine bird, the multicolored snake, and the star-twisting vine were rescued. The 3 of them had contributed greatly in this battle, especially Supremacy Yi. He really fought with his life on the line. Yen Ao followed closely behind and disappeared without a trace. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan took the lead and rushed towards the Void Ridge. His figure sped forward as the stars moved. Chu Shijun and the others followed. Only Chu Shijue, the elder, was guarding the Crying Ghost Ridge. Whoosh! Whoosh! All the experts moved out and rushed towards the Void Ridge. The projection of Class 1 Hall's Hall Master dissipated. Before he left, he glanced at the Void Ridge. He still could not find out who the Yen clan's backup was. That pair of eyes were very sharp and powerful. Even he felt some pressure. The Yen clan's backup? Is there such a powerful existence? Class 1 Hall's Hall Master had searched for countless years in the ancient immortal world and the immortal world. Until now, he had not found a decent expert, let alone one from the Yen clan. "Let's see where you can hide." The Dao Patrol attacked and humiliated Yi Qinghan. "I don't believe that you won't take action." The Hall Master stood outside Class 1 Hall and exhaled. He waved his hand and took out a sword. Then, he quietly disappeared into the Void Ridge. It seemed that he also had to take action. Once the Yen clan's backup appeared, they would not be able to escape. They would die without a doubt. When Yi Qinghan could no longer support them, Crazed Manor's confidence would definitely collapse. They would not be able to win. Would Crazed Manor still have such strong cohesion? The Hall Master made up his mind. Hence, he left Class 1 Hall and headed for the Void Ridge. Half a month later, the Dao Patrol was the first to arrive at the Void Ridge. He stood on the Void Ridge and silently waited for Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was neither too fast nor too slow. However, he was not slow either. The Dao Patrol is not a divine general, nor is he immortal Emperor Qing Zun. He is the real Taigu Emperor of Class 1 Hall. It will be difficult to defeat him. However, if I can use him to create a new cultivation technique, it will be a good choice. Yi Qinghan thought to himself. Once he created the technique of reversing the order of laws, it would not be easy for Class 1 Hall's Hall Master to kill him. Class 1 Hall's Hall Master. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed fiercely. His Tao heart was clear. He walked on the celestial river and looked at the order of the world. His eyes were full of arrogance. One day I will bring peace to the world. However, in the early stages, I will have to stop the war with war. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Qinghan ascended the sky with each step. His aura became stronger and stronger. The laws and order around him no longer existed. His aura reached its peak. Although it was not the Taigu Emperor's, it was comparable to the Taigu Emperor's. Roar, roar. The image of dragon and tiger soared into the sky and turned into wings that tore through the celestial river. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The image of dragon and tiger slapped the sky and brought Yi Qinghan to the void ridge. Boom. More than 30 experts from Crazed Manor followed closely behind. Each of them had an imposing aura. Yi Qinghan slowly walked to the center of the void ridge. He faced the Tao patrol on a plain. Their eyes met, and killing intent filled the air. Don't lose or you'll die. Dharmaraja Samsara needs someone to accompany him to the grave, Yi Qinghan said hoarsely. The Tao patrol retorted disdainfully, You? Can you kill me? Yi Qinghan raised his hand, and thousands of stars flashed in the void, shining brightly. Countless stars connected into a net, and all the stars were mobilized. The power of the stars bathed his body that was against the laws of order, and endless power poured into his body. It was like a drop of water in the ocean, unable to burst his body at all. His body was too freakish. No one could compare. How many people have questioned me in the past? In the end, they all died. I'm still alive. Actually, I don't care about killing people. Why do you always like to force me? I want the Void Ridge and the immortal world. You ancient gods and immortals are high and mighty. Isn't it good to return to the ancient immortal world? Yi Qinghan was surrounded by starlight. His body had turned into an indestructible star. Buzz. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The alien star rose again. It shone with boundless light. A beam of light entered Yi Qinghan's body and then disappeared without a trace. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. The power of the stars that the alien star shot out was actually a power that defied laws and logos of order. It was completely different from the other stars. This power was completely compatible with his body. When combined with his body that defied laws and logos of order, the power that erupted was enough to devour mountains, rivers, and the universe. So power can also defy laws and logos of order. Yi Qinghan growled in his heart. He was shocked and excited. That alien star was definitely his natal star. Emperor Liang and the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall's predictions were absolutely accurate. He was the savior, the person who would destroy the ancient immortals and ancient gods. That's what they predicted, that I might have survived 10 tribulations and 10 lifetimes. That's why Class 1 Hall definitely wouldn't dare to kill me. Yi Qinghan knew in his heart that unless they destroyed his Tao heart, they would have no chance. Interesting. Truly interesting. Yi Qinghan smiled as he muttered to himself. However, he did not prepare to use the power that defied laws and logos of order. After all, it was too little. Once Class 1 Hall's Hall Master was alerted, he would definitely capture him alive at all costs. Whoosh, whoosh. Only after devouring the power of dozens of stars did Yi Qinghan stop. The Tao Patroller did not stop him. He wanted to let Yi Qinghan fight him at his peak. Only by defeating him would his Tao heart loosen. Chapter 2779. The The starlight shone brightly and covered the sky. Everyone was shocked by Yi Qinghan's aura. In ancient times there was the first emperor, the Flame Emperor. Today there was Yi Qinghan, the Battle Lord of Kuang Manor. The first emperor died in battle because he was young, but he didn't fall. Would Yi Qinghan in this life also die tragically? No one knew. No matter how strong a person was, didn't the Flame Emperor die in battle? Yi Qinghan might not be an exception. However, who in Kuang Manor would be afraid of death? As the boss, Yi Qinghan was even less afraid of death. Otherwise, he wouldn't have fought with the Dao Patrol. He would have just knelt down. Crack! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and picked the stars. The ground beneath his feet cracked. No matter how strong the laws of order were, they couldn't withstand a single blow from him. The stars shattered and formed a saber that overlapped with the 7-foot berserk saber. In Yi Qinghan's hands, the saber was 4 to 5 meters long. Perhaps only someone as domineering as him could use such a saber. Boom! Yi Qinghan stepped forward and stared at the Dao Patrol. He said coldly, "I won't use the human Dao Emperor Pagoda for the first 3,000 moves. If you can't win, don't blame me." The Dao Patrol wanted to break Yi Qinghan's Dao heart, but Yi Qinghan wanted to break the Taigu Emperor's Dao heart even more. He didn't need to use the human Dao Emperor Pagoda to fight the Taigu Emperor. If they were evenly matched, the Dao Patrol might fall to the fourth form because his Dao heart was broken. The Dao Patrol was cold. His hands cut through the void and formed an Emperor sword. Even if it was formed by the Taigu Emperor's power, it was sharp enough. Whoosh! The Emperor's sword swept through the sky. It cut through mountains and rivers, shaking the Emperor's robes. The Dao Patrol stood 1,000 meters away, his aura overwhelming the heavens. "Dao Patrol, please enlighten me." The Dao Patrol pressed his left hand on his right fist and performed a Emperor sword salute. He placed Yi Qinghan on the same level as him. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's battle robes were cold. He crossed his arms and replied domineeringly, "Yi Qinghan, please enlighten me." His back was majestic, and he had the bearing of an emperor. His broad back gave Kuang Fu a sense of security. It was also because of his unyielding passion that Kuang Fu followed him wholeheartedly. Every time they encountered a true expert, he would always stand in front of them and never let them be harmed by the strongest experts. At this moment the owner was completely convinced. She had never admired anyone in her life. She had always wanted to be an empress, and did not care about any man. However, she admired Yi Qinghan very much. Dark Dance's eyes were filled with admiration. In her opinion, even the Taigu Emperor might not be able to win against Yi Qinghan. Jian Chenshua Emperor Yi and the others were very nervous. Every time Yi Qinghan made a move, it was always at the most crucial moment against the strongest cultivator. Others believed in him, but they were always on tenterhooks. Perhaps this was love. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's toes pierced the ground. He was in an attacking posture, holding his sword with both hands. Boom! The 7-foot heavy sword slashed the void, bringing with it a monstrous aura that flooded the void and spread in all directions. Whoosh! Hum! The patrolling Dao raised his sword. The sword was majestic, and it slammed against the dome. The Taigu Emperor's power caused countless people to retreat. No one dared to stand in the battle zone anymore. Kuang Fu also retreated. No matter how strong they were, they could not participate in the battle between the Taigu Emperor. After all, they were not Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! Whoosh! Kuang Fu retreated very quickly, but Yi Qinghan and the patrolling Dao were even faster. In the blink of an eye they collided. Boom! Bang! 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 In an instant, the sword and saber collided more than 100 times. The impact caused the palms of their hands to crack. Blood stained the ground of the divine weapon. Their blood was burned by the friction of the qi. Crack! Crack! Smoke and dust rose from the ground. The stable space of the void ridge was shattered. It was terrifying. Whoosh, whoosh. Yi Qinghan's sword and the patrolling Dao's sword slashed through the clouds. They were as fast as lightning. The more they fought, the braver they became. Blood continued to fall from the sky. No one could see what the battle was like. Bang! Boom! Hiss! Hiss! The sound of robes being torn resounded through the mountains and rivers. Angry roars shook the world. The image of a dragon and a tiger soared into the sky, driving Yi Qinghan's speed. The materials gathered by the outer stars of the 7-foot heavy sword were shattered into powder. The blade appeared, and it was even more terrifying. Boom! Boom! In the blink of an eye, the two of them exchanged thousands of attacks. The back of the sword was shattered, and the 7-foot heavy sword was blunted. The blade was curled up, and there was even a gap. Boom! Bang! The final attack sent the two of them flying. Yi Qinghan retreated a few thousand meters. His legs were almost broken. Only then did he dissipate the monstrous impact. On the other hand, the patrolling Dao only retreated 100 steps. It was extremely brutal. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Yi Qinghan had a slender sword wound on his chest. He was battered and exhausted. His eyes were burning with blue flames. These blue flames had become a strange flame that defied the laws of order. Could refine everything in the world. It was not within the laws of order, and could harm anyone. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan simply put away the 7-foot heavy sword. He waved his hands, controlling the blue flames. He stomped on the ground, and his iron fists punched out hundreds of miles. Before he arrived, the wind from his fists had already arrived. Bang! 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 Boom! Yi Qinghan and the patrolling Dao kept exchanging punches. Emperor power protected their fists, and actually resisted the corrosion of the blue flames. However, their emperor power was also ignited. Long legs collided, and the bones in their legs were broken. However, the two of them refused to retreat as if they had gone mad. Gotcha! Yi Qinghan's fist smashed through space and landed heavily on the patrolling Dao's right arm. However, his left fist also landed on Yi Qinghan's chest. Poof! Yi Qinghan's ribs were broken, but the right arm of the patrolling Dao's emperor physique was also broken. It was too bloody and brutal. It was completely like a battle between primordial beasts. There was no logic to it. The stronger one was, the stronger the fist. That was the boss. Thud! Thud! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan retreated dozens of steps, but he could not reverse the situation. His body fell heavily to the ground, and his robes were torn apart. His chest was pierced by the emperor physique, and he was injured by the emperor physique. The pain caused his face to contort, and the eyes hidden under the mask turned red. He punched the ground, and his body forcibly stood up. At this point, whoever fell and did not get up would be considered defeated. Yi Qinghan was like an undying existence. No matter how many blows he took, he still stood up strongly. The patrolling Dao's right arm was pierced through by Yi Qinghan's punches. However, the patrolling Dao pressed it back down, and his emperor power surged, quickly repairing it. Yi Qinghan was also repairing his ribs. At this point, it was a matter of who would recover first. Whoosh! 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 In the depths of the galaxy, starlight surged. Endless power of the stars poured into his body, providing him with endless strength. The emperor physique attached to his wound was reversed, and his injury was rapidly repaired. In just a moment, Yi Qinghan attacked the patrolling Dao like a madman. He did not care about his life at all. I want you dead. Boom! Yi Qinghan punched the void and kicked the stars, causing space to shatter. Each of his attacks contained the power of the Dao, enough to shatter the starry skies. Only by going all out could one compare to a Dao patroller. Boom! Boom! Bang! 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 The two fought again. The limits of speed and strength were on display at this moment. Although it was not as magnificent as the battle between emperors, It was more violent and wild than the battle between the Taigu Emperor. It was full of masculinity. This was a battle between men. The patrolling Dao wanted to use the most domineering method to defeat Yi Qinghan. He punched Yi Qinghan's arms, which were protecting his head, and then turned it into an elbow strike. Boom! Yi Qinghan was sent flying again. Crack! Boom! The void ridge was shattered, and Yi Qinghan's foot stabbed deep into the ground. At this moment, everyone in the crazed manor clenched their fists, and their clothes were drenched in sweat. They were praying that Yi Qinghan would win. Immortal Emperor Qing Zun did not dare to look. He thought of himself as an emperor, and then looked at the two now. His emperor title was laughable. Chapter 2780. Thank you to all the big shots for reading. Thank you to Young and Frivolous, burning your life for your dreams, and the rest for your support. Immortal Emperor Qing Zun did not dare to look. Even Mount Jingfan was trembling. The other inheritors of the previous generation and this generation were all trembling in fear. Their Dao hearts were all crushed. Gu Jiutian was the only one who did not come. She was also glad that she did not come. Otherwise, their Dao hearts would have been crushed. The two of them fought their way out of the void ridge and into the depths of the galaxy. Blood splattered across the galaxy. 10,000 laws wailed. Heaven and earth wept. The Hall Master of Class 1 Hall came. However, he hid in the dark and followed the trajectory of the two's battle. He was waiting for the Yen tribe's backup plan to appear. Hence, he did not appear. He really did not care about the people of Crazed Manor. There was no need for him to make a move. He wanted to kill the Yen tribe's backup plan the most. Boom! In the depths of the galaxy, a huge star was hit by the two of them at the same time. Instantly, it shattered into pieces. The shock waves spread for millions of miles and lit up the depths of the galaxy. The experts of Crazed Manor clenched their fists. Their faces were ferocious. Every day that Yi Qinghan fought, they would worry for a day. The sun set and the stars rose. The moonlight was like water. Yi Qinghan and the Dao Patrol fought in the void for dozens of days and months. Every bone in their bodies was broken, but they still persevered. The Dao Patrol did not expect that he would become Yi Qinghan's stepping stone. The more they fought, the more determined his Dao heart became. After 20 years of fighting, Yi Qinghan fought his way to Greedy Wolf's Star. His entire body was stained with blood. Even his mask was covered in blood. Hoo, dong dong dong. The two's hearts could not take it anymore. The Dao Patrol looked at Yi Qinghan mournfully. He had never seen such a terrifying person. Yi Qinghan clutched his chest. It was extremely painful. If they continued fighting, his heart would definitely explode. However, it was the same for the Dao Patrol. No one could hold on any longer. No one's physical body could withstand such a high-intensity battle. Yi Qinghan fought with his life. The Dao Patrol competed with his realm. After 20 years of fighting, they were only evenly matched. Although the Hall Master who was hiding in the dark had been watching the battle between the two, he was also observing the surroundings. It's impossible for the Flame Clan's backup not to come in such a battle. Why can't I find his position? Did he not come? Or has he reached a heaven-defying realm that even I can't detect? The Hall Master watched silently. If the person he really wanted to kill didn't come, he could only stand in a different space. Gluttonous Star was bathed in starlight, illuminating the land. The planet was riddled with potholes. This wasn't the only time this place had experienced a war. Last time, Yi Qinghan and the 4 primordial sovereigns' legacies had fought here. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Yi Qinghan panted heavily as he tried to calm the stinging pain in his body. He was so tired that he couldn't even open his eyes. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan slowly took off his mask. His handsome face was covered in blood and wounds. His fierce eyes glowed with blue flames. These flames completely defied the laws of nature and made people shudder. The Dao patrol saw Yi Qinghan staring at him, and his killing intent grew stronger. He clenched his fist. Even the Taigu Emperor's strength couldn't allow him to stand on the high ground and look down on Yi Qinghan. Moreover, he hadn't even used the human Dao Emperor pagoda. I need to rest for a while. If I continue fighting, my body won't be able to take it, the Dao patrol muttered to himself. Without the Taigu Emperor's sword, he couldn't use his strength. Yi Qinghan leaned against a huge rock. He wanted to close his eyes and rest, but if he rested now, he would rest for the rest of his life. I can't give up. The only way to survive is to fight, not to fight on the road. Yi Qinghan roared. He activated his consciousness and thought about how to create a new technique that didn't belong to the laws of the five elements. An hour later, the battle started again. Fist after fist, the attacks were more or less the same. Boom! Yi Qinghan and the Dao patrol raised their whips and swept their legs at the same time. In an instant, they hit each other's heads. Bang! Buzz! Yi Qinghan and the Dao patrol were both knocked unconscious at the same time. Their heads hit the ground hard. Their souls buzzed and blood splattered everywhere. This wasn't something their wills could control. Their souls were completely dazed. The Hall Master was still waiting, but the Yen tribe didn't seem to have any intention of attacking. He's sure that I won't kill Yi Qinghan? The Hall Master frowned and looked at the Dao patrol with disappointment. He didn't expect that the great Taigu Emperor couldn't defeat a young man who wasn't even at the level of a Taigu Emperor. If he could completely defeat Yi Qinghan's will, why would he go through so much trouble? If Yi Qinghan's will couldn't be broken, then it could only be broken from the outside. First, they had to destroy the Yen tribe and then use the elite Hall disciples to kill the people of Crazed Manor. When the Yen tribe was defeated and everyone was defeated, Yi Qinghan's will would naturally collapse. Unfortunately, the elite Hall disciples were defeated. Although the Dao patrol didn't lose, he didn't win either. The strongest Yen tribe didn't show up, so the Hall Master didn't have a chance to use his skills. The Hall Master gripped the Imperial sword and looked at the fallen Dao patrol. Is there no chance? Do we have to plan this carefully? Do we really have to send all the ancient gods and ancient immortals back to the ancient immortal world and seal their path to the ancient immortal world? The Hall Master really wanted to kidnap Yi Qinghan, but he didn't dare to show up and capture Yi Qinghan. If the experts of the Yen tribe sneak attacked him from behind, the losses would outweigh the gains. After a long time, Yi Qinghan woke up. The call from the voracious wolf star came. His voracious wolf mark came into effect again. Hua hua hua! Yi Qinghan's finger slid down the stone under him. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at the Dao patrol who was moving. He had to grit his teeth and get up again. The Dao patrol couldn't even stand properly. If they continued to fight, both sides would be injured. It was meaningless. Hua! The Hall Master appeared and said, Yi Qinghan, follow me into the elite hall. This battle is over. From now on, the ancient immortal world and the undying immortal world will be separated and have nothing to do with each other. As for the Yen tribe, I can also let them continue. Yi Qinghan was bleeding non-stop and covered his eyes. However, he asked resolutely, did you win? Out of 30 battles, we've fought 5 battles. We've won 3 and drawn 2. According to the rules, you should retreat and never come to the undying, immortal world again. The Hall Master looked at Yi Qinghan's resolute expression. His finger moved the scabbard as if he was about to kill. However, no experts appeared. Coward! The Hall Master cursed. Yi Qinghan had the Dao Emperor pagoda. He wouldn't just sit and wait for death. As long as the Dao Emperor pagoda held him back for a moment, no one could be sure that the Yen ancestors' backup plan wouldn't suddenly appear. Yi Qinghan replied hoarsely, "You're not bad yourself. You don't even dare to show your face." The hall master of the elite hall was high and mighty. This time, he was mocked by Yi Qinghan, but he couldn't refute. "Who?" The hall master exhaled and said calmly, "Forget it. From now on, the undying immortal world and the ancient immortal world will be cut off. The undying immortal world will be yours, and the ancient immortal world will belong to the ancient gods and ancient immortals. The enmity between both sides will end. How about it?" Yi Qinghan grinned. His smile was chilling. "Wouldn't everything have been fine if you'd agreed earlier? I'm not interested in the ancient immortal world. I'm also not interested in exterminating the ancient gods and ancient immortals. This so-called enmity is just your wishful thinking. It doesn't count," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Chapter 2781. Class 1 Hall's Hall Master looked at Yi Qinghan. At that moment, she really did not want the patrol to continue fighting with Yi Qinghan. If they fought now, it would be the same as becoming Yi Qinghan's stepping stone. "If I'm proven wrong one day, I'm willing to apologize." The hall master cupped his fists and said solemnly. Yi Qinghan nodded. "I'll wait for that day." Whoosh! The hall master took the patrol and went straight to the Void Ridge. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan took out the Emperor Yen Tower and let it carry him to the Void Ridge. The Emperor Yen Tower's aura spread out in all directions, almost distorting the void. He arrived at the Void Ridge at the same time as the Hall Master. "Gather all ancient gods and ancient immortals and return to the ancient immortal world. No ancient gods or ancient immortals are allowed to enter the undying immortal world. From today onwards, the undying immortal world belongs to Crazed Manor. No ancient gods or ancient immortals are allowed to enter the undying immortal world without my or sect leader Ye's permission." Crazed Manor was overjoyed, and the ancient gods and ancient immortals were shocked. The mighty Class 1 Hall of the immemorial ancient immortal world had given in and given the undying immortal world to Yi Qinghan. During the immemorial era, Class 1 Hall had banished many foreign races. Not only did they banish them from the ancient immortal world, they didn't even allow them to enter the undying immortal world. They were either exterminated or forced to retreat to the desolate border like the Dark Moon clan. Now, the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall had chosen to retreat and give up the undying immortal world. But no one dared to refute the Hall Master's words, including the Emperor's inheritances. "Go back and migrate your people. No one is allowed to stay," the Hall Master ordered coldly. "Yes." All the ancient gods and ancient immortals with immemorial bloodlines bowed and retreated. Whoosh! The Hall Master flew to the undying immortal world and stood at the top of the sky. Circulating his Emperor's power, he shouted, "All ancient gods and ancient immortals of the undying immortal world are not allowed to stay. Gather at the Void Ridge immediately. All natives of the undying immortal world who wish to follow Class 1 Hall to the ancient immortal world are welcome. Class 1 Hall will help you establish your base. No one will be left behind." Whoosh! The whole world was in an uproar. The ancient immortal world was a place that many people yearned for. However, that place was filled with killing and forbidden zones. Who would dare to enter without a powerful expert? However, the ancient immortal world's Class 1 Hall wanted to help them set up a base and clear out the ancient killing forbidden zones. How good was this news? All of a sudden, the natives of the immortal world shouted, wanting to follow Class 1 Hall and migrate to the ancient immortal world. Yi Qinghan did not stop them. If they wanted to leave, he would let them leave. The immortal world did not need fools. Class 1 Hall would definitely not be so kind as to help open up a battlefield. They only needed cannon fodder. Those experts who had fled into the endless sea rushed back with their clansmen. Outside the main city of each city, a large number of people would gather. This was already an unwritten agreement. Gather outside your main cities. 30 years is the time limit. I will personally take you away, the hall master said in a deep voice. 70% of the natives of the immortal world wanted to leave this place. The immortal world had no resources, and its laws and principles were far inferior to the ancient immortal world. In the same realm, their battle prowess was far inferior to the ancient immortal world. To everyone, the ancient immortal world and the immortal world were like heaven and earth. Seeing Class 1 Hall's Hall Master taking away the blood of the immortal world, the people of Crazed Manor were furious. However, Yi Qinghan shook his head and suppressed them. Our return has nothing to do with us. I only want the undying immortal world, not their people. If they want to leave, then let them go. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Then, he led the Kuang Manor back to the Crying Ghost Ridge. The moment they entered Crying Ghost Ridge, Yi Qinghan quickly mobilized the heaven-conquering camp and the Crazed Manor's army to defend the Qingzuan Immortal Empire. He watched coldly as Class 1 Hall brought away the natives of the immortal world. The people of Crazed Manor felt uneasy. How could Class 1 Hall's Hall Master retreat so easily? Boss, what do you think Class 1 Hall's Hall Master is thinking? The older generation of Crazed Manor gathered, and Yen Ao asked curiously. Sitting in his chair, Yi Qinghan tapped the table with his fingertips as he said in a low voice, "They're using the same tactic to lure the Flame Race's reinforcements. They want him to appear without any worries." This was just a guess. No one was Class 1 Hall's Hall Master. No one could guess his true thoughts. In this old man's opinion, he doesn't want the Tao Patrol to be your stepping stone. He's planning to nurture the true inheritors of the ancient gods' and emperors' legacies. Chess Sage took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "They're giving us time, and we're giving them time. The key is that the immortal world and the ancient immortal world's laws are not on the same level. We're at a disadvantage. Peace, there would never be complete peace, unless a race was truly destroyed." That's right. Class 1 Hall's Hall Master has been planning this for so long. How could he give up so easily? Yi Qinghan leaned against the dragon throne and looked up at the great hall. However, he was too tired and didn't want to fight. He didn't want to fight from the beginning. What was the use of exhausting Kuang Manor for the sake of revenge? After a long time, Yi Qinghan sat up straight with a flash of light. Release all the strong-willed youths of Crazed Manor and scatter them outside the main cities. Let Class 1 Hall take them in as loose cultivators. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Everyone from Crazed Manor sucked in a cold breath. This plan was too risky and too bold. However, how terrifying would it be to use Class 1 Hall and the ancient immortal world's resources to nurture those monsters? Brother Yen, you're in charge of this matter. You're the only one in charge. No one else is allowed to interfere. As for how many people are released, you don't have to tell me. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. At this time, there was no one else in the hall except for the 10 or so people from Crazed Manor. Even the boss and Chu Shixian weren't present. However, for safety reasons, Yi Qinghan handed over full authority to Yen Yunbei. He didn't even want to know who was released. Yen Yunbei directly disappeared and quietly retreated. The third generation of Crazed Manor were all children. Everything was kept secret. From birth until now, even their cultivation was a bit messy. They didn't have a systematic cultivation method. Lin Shukong's son, Void God Yi, also had children. Some of them even had a fourth-generation child. Some of the native nobles of the immortal world also had children. However, these children didn't interact with the direct descendants of Crazed Manor. These people were all within Yen Yunbei's consideration. As long as they were used well, their identities wouldn't be exposed at all. This was especially true for the third generation of Crazed Manor. Since young, they had been instilled with the idea of fighting for their people. For their people, they could sacrifice everything. Letting them infiltrate the enemy's forces would only make them excited and proud. Since young, they had been fighting for the survival of their people. Fighting for their fathers could lessen the hardships of their fathers. Over the past 30 years, Yan Yunbei had been shuttling back and forth between various cities of various sizes without leaving a trace. Children were constantly sent out, and the distance between the cities where the children were sent to was rather large. Some of them were even sent outside of the celestial nation. No matter how shrewd Class 1 Hall was, there was no way they could have predicted that Yi Qinghan would make such a move. The Hall Master was waiting. The other ancient gods and ancient immortals were taken away by the Tao Patrol. Most of the elites of the ancient Emperor Academy were also taken away by the ancient Heavenly Emperor. The ancient Heavenly Emperor himself entered the immortal world and disappeared. It was very difficult for the Hall Master to find a few hundred people in the vast immortal world. The ancient Heavenly Emperor didn't want to have anything to do with Class 1 Hall for the time being. At the very least, he wouldn't talk to the Hall Master until his cultivation reached a certain level. He wanted to be on equal footing with Class 1 Hall and not be restricted. Chapter 2782. 30 years later, no one knew how many children Yan Yunbei had sent out. They were as old as 15 or 16 years old, and as young as 7 or 8 years old. They were all ignorant children. However, they were all extremely talented and sensible since childhood. Some were sent to Southern Border City, some to Kai Yuan Immortal Empire, and some to Paragon Immortal Empire. Some were sent to big cities, some were sent to mid-sized cities, and some were sent to small cities. Some of the children used the identity of beggars to blend into the crowd, while others used the identity of child slaves from small clans to blend into the crowd waiting to be taken away. No one from the older generation objected, because Yi Qinghan's 3 grandsons and 1 granddaughter were sent away. Since Boss was the one leading the way, the others wouldn't stop the development of Quang Manor for their own selfish desires. Hall Master used his sacred art to continuously bring the natives of the undying immortal world to his main world. After 100 years of migration, even Hall Master himself didn't know how many people he had brought away. 60% of the undying immortal world's population had left. Almost all the experts had left. Only the desolate, undying immortal world was left. Looking at the desolate world, many resources were taken away by the natives. Even the houses were destroyed. Nothing was left for Quang Manor. Yi Qinghan felt unprecedentedly relaxed. The war finally stopped and there was a short period of peace. At this moment, Emperor Yi came to Yi Qinghan and whispered in his ear, "Chu Shijue, Immortal Emperor Qing Zun, and Mountain Lord Jingfan disappeared. Someone said that they entered the ancient immortal world. Brother Yan also entered the ancient immortal world." Yi Qinghan licked his lips and asked softly, "What other clues are there?" According to Hawkeye's description, someone saw Chu Shijue meeting with Immortal Emperor Qing Zun, Mount Jingfan Mountain Master, and the others a few days ago. After that, they left together. Big Brother Yan left on his own, Emperor Yi said softly. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment before replying faintly, "Don't worry. Perhaps they want to sneak into the ancient immortal world to cultivate. I believe in them. If they wanted to leave, they wouldn't have waited until now. Given Brother Yan's cultivation, he definitely wouldn't have been discovered if he didn't want to. He just wants to protect those children." Emperor Yi nodded and hugged Yi Qinghan's waist. He said gently, "You've worked hard. It's time to rest." Yi Qinghan held Emperor Yi in his arms as he watched the connection nodes between the immortal world and the ancient world of immortals vanish. The Hall Master was using a divine ability to completely sever the connection between the immortal world and the ancient world of immortals. Yi Qinghan slowly closed his eyes. He hadn't closed his eyes since the battle with the Dao Patrol, afraid that the Hall Master would suddenly attack the crazed manor. "It's time to rest," Yi Qinghan muttered. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan carried Emperor Yi back to Sky Gazing Peak on the northern Divine Island. The peak was overgrown with weeds. It had been tens of thousands of years since he last came here. It was too desolate. Yi Qinghan cleaned himself up and stood on Sky Gazing Peak. He gently kissed Emperor Ye's red lip. How many years had it been since he last had such tenderness? He simply didn't have the time or energy. Now, he just wanted to relax. Emperor Yi took the initiative to welcome him. He reached out and removed Yi Qinghan's battle robes, revealing a body full of scars. His heart was incomparably heavy. His clothes were all removed, leaving only sincerity. The giant dragon returned to its cave and slowly swam. Yi Qinghan had never felt so relaxed before. He hugged Emperor Ye's body and kissed him. At this time, the vast immortal world of immortals was sparsely populated. The crazed manor had begun to reorganize, merging the 5 great immortal kingdoms into one large kingdom, the Crazed Manor Kingdom. Yi Qinghan was still at Sky Gazing Peak, but the position of king was already decided. The various experts of the Crazed Manor began to divide the territories, each taking charge of a region. At this time, Bailey Qinxiang played a crucial role, beginning to cultivate powerful immortal treasures and holy herbs. Fields of herbs appeared one after another, stretching as far as the eye could see. The small cities were torn down and gathered in the large cities. The various manors recruited people to help cultivate the herbs. Everyone did not need to go out to train. They were all given respectable jobs with decent pay and benefits. The Crazed Manor did not treat them as slaves. They were thankful that they did not leave. However, those who did not leave the immortal world of immortals were mostly of low cultivation. There were very few Xian immortals, and there were many men and women. It was difficult to expand the population. The chess saint laid down the sky-devouring array, gathering the spiritual energy in the universe. The spiritual energy became denser, the laws gathered, and the order changed. Hundreds of years later, the order and dharma and logos of the immortal world of immortals were extremely rich. Some people could not even comprehend it and dropped their realm. After the change in the order and dharma and logos of the immortal world of immortals, the older generation of the Crazed Manor began to think about the Void Ridge. If they could push the Void Ridge to the immortal world of immortals and merge with the immortal world of immortals, the order and dharma and logos of the immortal world of immortals would be stronger. If the opportunity was right, the immortal world of immortals could be cultivated into a new ancient immortal world. Boom! More than 30 experts joined forces and forcefully pushed the Void Ridge towards the undying immortal world. When it was about 2 to 3 li away from the undying immortal world, it could not be pushed any further. Hence, everyone used metal chains to fix the connection between the undying immortal world and the Void Ridge. The territories were expanding and all the places were being used. Resources were being cultivated in batches, making great contributions to the development of the Crazed Manor and the immortal world of immortals. Bailey Qinxiang danced in the mountains and rivers, her fragrance assailing everyone's nostrils. After everything was done, the older generation of the Crazed Manor returned to their own territories. Only Green Lotus, Sword Fairy, and Jianqinxue were looking for Yi Qinghan. Finally, they found Yi Qinghan on the sky-gazing peak. Seeing the two naked people, they could not help but laugh. Green Lotus Sword Fairy even joked, "We are busy, but you are here having fun." Yi Qinghan chuckled. With a wave of his hand, he pulled the two of them onto the large bed and said indifferently, "I'm not as bored as you think. I've spent the past 100 years cultivating and healing my hidden injuries." Emperor Yi blushed. He quickly put on his clothes and said, I will let you have him. You can have fun here. I am going to get busy. Whoosh! Emperor Yi ran away, leaving the two women behind. They could not run away even if they wanted to. Yi Qinghan turned around and fought against the two of them. His soft panting echoed in the sky. One day later, Green Lotus Sword Fairy escaped from the sky-gazing peak, leaving Jian Qinxue to face Yi Qinghan alone. Yi Qinghan, who had rested for a while, wanted to relax again. However, Jian Qinxue slapped him and made him behave. Although there's peace now, we can't indulge ourselves. You'd better tell me what we should do next. Jian Qinxue acted like a dependent elder sister, so Yi Qinghan didn't dare to be too presumptuous. Jian Qinxue's position was too important. At least in Yi Qinghan's heart, she surpassed Emperor Yi and Green Lotus Sword Fairy. When love was sublimated, there was also affection. Yi Qinghan hugged Jian Qinxue and said lightly, Don't think too much. They want time, and so do I. My next step is to find that alien star. I cannot advance to the Dharch realm in the immortal world. It is also very difficult to create my own mystic technique. The power produced by that alien star is against the order of Dharma and Logos. It is connected to my physical body. I can use the alien star to break through the perfected holy golden body and let my physical body step into the Dharch realm. If his physical body stepped into the Dharch realm, he would not be able to defeat the Hall Master. However, he would not be able to last long in the Tao Patrol realm. I will go with you, Jian Qinxue said firmly at once. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said softly, The galaxy is not as safe as you think. You can stay at home at ease. I will give you the Master God space. You can cultivate in peace. When I return, everything will change. Chapter 2783. Yi Qinghan rejected Jian Qinxue's request. However, Jian Qinxue did not want Yi Qinghan to take the risk alone. She insisted on going with him and said gently, It's too dangerous and lonely for you to go alone. I'll go with you. I'm not a weak girl anymore. Yi Qinghan touched Jian Qinxue's head and sighed. Actually, there's another reason why I don't take you with me. You have the immemorial yin-yang sword, and can guard this place for me. Even if I leave you, Yan'eo, and a few others can team up and the patrol can't do anything to you. The Hall Master of the First Hall is restrained by the Yen clan and can't do anything. The ancient god of time and space is severely injured and can't fight. If I don't take the opportunity to enter the Emperor realm, we won't have a chance when they recover. Then you can take a sister with you. Sister Green Lotus can do it. Sister Emperor can also do it. Jian Qinxue pondered for a moment and suggested, Whoever goes with you can at least relieve some of your pressure. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. The Milky Way was full of danger. He could not guarantee his own safety, let alone bringing Emperor Yi or Green Lotus Sword immortal. I'll take the colorful snake and the divine bird. As for the pressure on my body, I still have Little Fox immortal. Don't worry, I won't mistreat myself. Yi Qinghan grinned. Stupid. Jian Qinxue punched Yi Qinghan's chest and pretended to be angry as she reprimanded him. Yi Qinghan smiled. He washed his body and put on his battle robe. He put on the dragon and tiger mask again. His temperament was otherworldly and his aura was restrained. Standing in front of Jian Qinxue, he was like air without any fluctuations. The next time I come back, the immortal world and the ancient immortal world will be completely peaceful. I'll start to enjoy the arrogant life of lying on a beauty's lap and controlling the world. Yi Qinghan lifted Jian Qinxue's chin and said evilly. Jian Qinxue smiled and replied shyly, I'll wait here for you to come back. Yi Qinghan nodded and took out the god's space with a wave of his hand. He took Sovereign Yi and the colorful snake out and merged them into his bloodline. Then he handed the god's space to Jian Qinxue. I put a brocade pouch in the god space. If there's danger or the immortal world goes out of control, take it out and summon it. Yi Qinghan stared at Jian Qinxue and reminded him. Okay. Jian Qinxue took a deep breath. Yi Qinghan had taken everything into account. Regardless of whether the pouch would be used or not, the crazed manor would be safe. Even if the immortal world went out of control, it would not be able to shake the foundation of the crazed manor. And help. And help. Them and the others to work. He. Help S. Qinxue. Xiao. With a leap, Yi Qinghan dove down from the sky-gazing mountain and casually sent the human Tao sovereign tower out of the heaven-suppressing palace. Then, he turned into a meteor and dashed into the galaxy. No one in Immortal World knew that Yi Qinghan had left. Jian Qinxue did not think of telling anyone. She just sealed the sky-gazing peak and told the world that Yi Qinghan was in seclusion. With Yi Qinghan around, the world could be stabilized. Without him, the world would be in a state of panic. Jian Qinxue sat in the sky-gazing peak and held the world's power. She used Yi Qinghan's name to command the heroes, including the chess saint. Right now, in the immortal world, the most difficult factor to control was the chess saint. If Yi Qinghan died in battle, he would never listen to Immortal World. His heart wanted to play chess with the heavens, let alone the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall. The only thing that could crush him now was the savage Yi Qinghan. The chess saint wasn't afraid of anyone. He was only afraid of Yi Qinghan's eyes. Yi Qinghan's crazy eyes that controlled everything. His aura was too sinister and evil. However, his heart was burning with passion, making countless people fight for him. The chess saint could control the world's power, but he could not control Yi Qinghan. What he did not expect was that Yi Qinghan had left and would be gone for a very long time. And at this moment, if a woman wanted to control the world, she would be more meticulous than a man. Jian Qinxue mobilized the immortal world's inner sex 30,000 men to guard the northern divine island, 300,000 ancient massacre gods to guard the heaven-suppressing palace, and the outer sex disciples to guard the northern divine region. Hua! Boom! Jian Qinxue took out the immemorial yin-yang sword, stabbed it into the peak and sat cross-legged on the sky-gazing mountain to cultivate. At this moment, even Emperor Yi and Green Lotus Sword Immortal had to report before entering the sky-gazing mountain. Dark Dance tried to look for Yi Qinghan several times, but she was rejected outside the heaven-suppressing palace. She could not even enter the northern divine island. Xiao, Hua. At this moment, Yi Qinghan turned into a meteor, shuttling through the void, traversing through the dead stars. In the boundless galaxy, he looked weak and frail. The alien star had disappeared and no one knew where it was. Yi Qinghan casually shuttled through the void. It was difficult to find an alien star now as the alien star had its own consciousness. He was only afraid that the Hall Master would find it. Once an expert like the Hall Master found an alien star, he could definitely destroy its foundation. After shuttling through the void for a few years and countless galaxies, Yi Qinghan did not even see a single planet with life. Loneliness, desolation, and vastness. The entire immemorial universe could only be described with these three words. Hua hua hua. Astral winds blew in the void as Yi Qinghan stood on a dead star. His battle robe fluttered and his black hair danced in the wind. In the entire universe, it seemed like he was the only one standing proudly in the sky. His devilish eyes moved along with the starlight as he looked around. He cast the anti-order laws in an attempt to attract a response from the alien star, but the alien star seemed to have disappeared. Celestial bodies floated in the star river. Yi Qinghan looked at these floating celestial bodies with vigilance. No one knew if these celestial bodies were actually the transformations of giant celestial beasts. If they took the initiative to run into their mouths, then it would be bad luck. Xiao xiao xiao, Yi Qinghan continued shuttling through the void. After traveling for countless miles, he finally found an extremely weak planet with no experts on it. Hua! Yi Qinghan leaped and entered the small planet. Everything was still very primitive, and the martial arts they cultivated were still very primitive. The language was also different from the language of the immortal world. They even thought that they were the only planet with life in the entire universe. Yi Qinghan secretly absorbed a person's memory and learned a few simple words. He then entered an ancient city and summoned Little Fox Immortal. A person who traveled through the galaxy all year round would go crazy if they did not speak for a long time. Yi Qinghan did not want to become an anomaly, so after finding a planet with life, he would definitely take a break and at least chat with Little Fox Immortal. Yi Qinghan came to an inn and ordered a few simple dishes. There was not even a bit of energy in them, but he still drank a few cups with Little Fox Immortal. Yi Qinghan was lying on a chair in a private room. He held a wine cup and looked out the window as he sighed softly. The galaxy is so vast and boring. After traveling for thousands of years and crossing countless galaxies, we only found one planet with life. And it's even a primitive planet. We are all frogs at the bottom of a well. How helpless. Kakik, Little Fox Immortal came behind Yi Qinghan and reached out to massage Yi Qinghan's temples. She smiled and said, "Master, you are wrong. When we were weak, weren't we also frogs at the bottom of a well? Who would have thought that in the vast galaxy, there would be such a powerful race and the Taigu Emperor?" Ha ha ha! Yi Qinghan laughed dryly. The stronger his cultivation, the more he understood the immemorial universe. Perhaps when he stepped into the Taigu Emperor's realm, everything would be clear. Chapter 2784. The greatest was the immemorial natural universe, where humans were born naturally from the laws of order. Humans slowly developed, moving forward step by step. When humans reached the strongest, they would destroy the planet that they relied on for survival. Yi Qinghan sighed. He stayed on this small planet for a few days to observe the laws and order of the original planet before leaving. He did not disturb the order of this place. In fact, if he wanted to, he could make this planet enter an unprecedented civilization ahead of time. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan put away Little Fox Immortal again and stepped on the path alone. As time passed, Yi Qinghan searched for tens of thousands of years. His state of mind began to change. He had traveled tens of thousands of miles and read tens of thousands of books. He had not only traveled tens of thousands of miles, but he had also seen the various forms of the universe. He had also seen even larger astral beasts, which were tens of times larger than the previous astral beasts. They were extremely fast, and if he was not strong enough, he would have been devoured. He had seen many life planets along the way. There were immemorial civilizations, transcendent civilizations, machinery civilizations, and magic civilizations. There were all kinds of strange things. If he had not seen them, he would not have thought that there were so many civilizations in the world. Some civilizations were very powerful, and their machinery had been developed to a heaven-defying level. They were made of steel and were extremely hard. Their attacks could make immortal mystic immortals retreat, and could even kill immortal mystic immortals. Machinery civilizations could use concepts and numbers to calculate the space and time of the universe. They were completely different from martial cultivation civilizations, but the end result was the same. Yi Qinghan flipped through their records, and many words enlightened him. Machinery civilizations and martial cultivation civilizations each had their own merit. 10,000 years later, Yi Qinghan entered an empty galaxy. He found that there was not even a dead planet nearby. There was only a huge whirlpool stirring the galaxy, and there was nothing else. Yi Qinghan frowned as he looked at the black hole in front of him. He had an impulse to jump in and see what was inside, and where the end of the black hole was. Supreme Yi felt the restlessness of Yi Qinghan's bloodline. He immediately jumped out and shouted in fear, "Boss, you're courting death again." Yi Qinghan looked at the black hole and said seriously, "I think this black hole is very interesting. There must be something strange inside. Don't you think so?" There were no longer any stars within a radius of the black hole, but there were many broken stars floating around. This meant that the black hole was not actively absorbing matter. After so many years, this was not the first time Yi Qinghan had seen a black hole, but this time was different. Supreme Yi looked around and nodded in agreement. He replied, "It's very strange, but I can't go and investigate everything that I think is strange, right? I still think there's something wrong with your head. I can't possibly pry open your head and see what's inside, right?" Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and pulled with his large hand, dragging Yi Qinghan towards the black hole. Yi Qinghan screamed in fright, but Yi Qinghan seemed to be deliberately trying to scare and teach him a lesson. Yi Qinghan moved faster and faster, and no matter how hard Yi Qinghan struggled, he could not open his arms. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan entered the surface of the black hole and could not feel any suction force from inside. This black hole was a smokescreen. Damn, there's actually such a high-level smokescreen in the depths of the galaxy. Even I couldn't see through it, Yi Qinghan said in surprise. Supreme Yi was so scared that his legs went limp, and his legs trembled. Whoosh! The colorful snake also ran out. Seeing Supreme Yi's cowardly appearance, it immediately mocked. "Look at your embarrassing appearance. Emperor of all beasts? Let me see it." Supreme Yi immediately stood up straight and roared, "I was the one who decided on this name first. Do you know what first come, first served is?" Yi Qinghan was completely speechless. Was the name Emperor of all beasts a trademark that belonged to whoever registered it first? The mechanical civilization had a sense of property rights, but the martial cultivation civilization was the boss with the biggest fist. Whoever was strong, the name belonged to whoever was strong. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan ignored it and waved his hand to shatter the smokescreen. A huge life planet appeared out of nowhere in front of them. It was not inferior to the immortal realm. Whoosh! Damn! What is this place? Yi Qinghan, Supreme Yi, and the colorful snake all exclaimed. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! The three of them flew through the air and headed straight for the planet. The huge planet was boundless, as if it was right in front of them. The ancient aura filled the air, rich in resources and incomparably prosperous. This place was far more developed than the immortal realm. Boom! The three of them landed outside an ancient and majestic city. They discovered that their bloodlines were somewhat similar to the special physiques of the immortal realm. Their cultivation was generally very high. Yi Qinghan secretly captured a golden immortal expert and stole his memories. He found an important clue. Everyone here is from the Saint Blood tribe. They migrated from the immemorial ancient immortal realm. However, this person's memories don't know much about the immemorial ancient immortal realm. Let's go find the strongest person in the Saint Blood tribe. He might know about the ancient immortal realm and Class 1 hall. Yi Qinghan said excitedly. After searching for so long, they didn't find any alien planet. However, they found clues about the ancient immortal realm's Class 1 hall. It could be considered an unexpected gain. No matter what, if we can find out who the hall master of Class 1 hall is, we won't be so passive. Yi Qinghan excitedly stepped into the ancient city. He wanted to find the Saint Blood tribe's chief through the city lord of the main city. Supreme Yi frowned and followed behind him. He reminded, what if the Saint Blood tribe and Class 1 hall are on the same side? Yi Qinghan shook his head and guessed they shouldn't be. Otherwise, they wouldn't have migrated to such a far place. I guess they should have been chased out of the ancient immortal realm by the people of Class 1 hall. That's why they fled to this place. It's not like what you said. We have to investigate as well. The three of them directly stepped into the main city's city lord mansion. The colorful snake's eyes were malicious and vicious. It kept licking the corner of its mouth, scaring the people in the city lord mansion. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom, in an instant, at least a dozen experts surrounded Yi Qinghan and the others. They were all big shots, ranging from celestial degrees to celestial degrees. Yi Qinghan did not take them to heart. He only said indifferently, "I want to see your city lord." "You dare to enter the city lord mansion for no reason and want to see the city lord?" Boom, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. More than a dozen people attacked at the same time, stabbing at Yi Qinghan, Supreme Yi, and the colorful snake. Poochie, the colorful snake, did not hold back. It directly bit off the neck of a Saint Blood tribe member and instantly devoured his qi and blood. Yi Qinghan directly grabbed the tip of two sharp swords. The rest of the swords crashed into his body but did not even break through his defense. Bang! Yi Qinghan only used a little strength and the sharp swords broke. The Saint Blood tribe members were shocked. They retreated more than 10 steps and kept a safe distance from Yi Qinghan and the others. These people were all experts. However, Yi Qinghan seemed to be abnormally strong. They had no place to use their skills. "I said, I want to see the city lord." Yi Qinghan looked down at the crowd and said coldly. Whoosh! One of the second-degree realm experts swiftly retreated while the others stared intently at Yi Qinghan. "You are from a different race. Why did you enter our Saint Blood tribe's territory? Are you ancient gods or ancient immortals?" The strongest stage 3 elder asked coldly. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and replied, "No, I'm just passing by. I want to verify some things with your clan leader, so I'm here to ask the city lord for a referral. I'll take a short rest. At most, I'll sleep for an hour and a half before fighting. Thank you for coming to help me." Chapter 2785. The Saint Blood tribe was a very ancient race. It was one of the top 10 special bloodlines in ancient times, but Yi Qinghan didn't know much about it. Although these second and third degree cultivators weren't strong, that was because their bloodline wasn't strong enough and they hadn't reached ancestral awakening. If they had, they would definitely be on par with him. Before long, a dignified old man with a strong bloodline descended. Although he hadn't reached ancestral awakening, his combat strength was already extraordinary. He should be on par with the older generation of the Crazy Manor, or even slightly superior. The Saint Blood tribe's city lord, Xing Yuezuan, had white hair and an immortal aura. He looked at Yi Qinghan with disgust. It was a hatred that came from the depths of his bones. "Who are you? How did you break into my Saint Blood realm?" Xing Yuezuan looked at Yi Qinghan, who was wearing a dragon and tiger mask. He couldn't see through Yi Qinghan's identity, but he could tell that he was an outsider and not a member of the Saint Blood tribe. Yi Qinghan looked at the old man and bowed slightly. "I am an outsider. Please introduce me to the Saint Blood tribe's patriarch. I would like to see him." Xing Yuezuan looked at his clansman lying in a pool of blood and clenched his fists. The Saint Blood was thick, and the strength in his body completely surpassed that of an ordinary person. This might be the special characteristic of a special bloodline. "You dare to run wild in my Saint Blood realm alone and even talk about meeting the patriarch? You really don't put my Saint Blood tribe in your eyes." Xing Yuezuan reprimanded in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan shook his head. "He's not dead, and I'm not running wild. If I really wanted to be your enemy, these dozen or so people would be lying on the ground already. I hope the city lord won't make things difficult for me. I'll leave as soon as I find the information I want." Xing Yuezuan's killing intent grew even thicker. The Saint Blood tribe had cultivated here for countless years and had grown accustomed to peace. They didn't like war, so he didn't want to let this outsider leave alive. "What information do you want?" Xing Yuezuan asked. Yi Qinghan replied bluntly. It's about the identity of the Hall Master of Elite Hall. Xing Yuezuan was startled. A strange light flashed in his eyes. He gestured with his hand. Follow me. Whoosh, whoosh. Xing Luzun soared into the sky and sped towards the east. Yi Qinghan followed closely behind with the multicolored snake and Sovereign Yi. In the blink of an eye, they caught up with Xing Luzun. Xing Yuezuan was vigilant as he muttered to himself, "This person is so strong. I can't let him leave. Otherwise, I don't know how much trouble he will bring to the Saint Blood tribe." Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Xing Luzun took Yi Qinghan and rushed towards the sacred mountain in the east. That was where the direct descendants of the Saint Blood race were located. All the experts were there. No one who fell in would be able to come out. However, Yi Qinghan was confident in himself. Although he didn't have the human Tao Emperor Pagoda, he still had a pair of indestructible fists. If he didn't want to fight, he could run anywhere. The sacred mountain towered into the clouds. Within a radius of 300 miles around the Saint Mountain, there were all direct descendants of the Saint Blood tribe. Ancient and majestic cities surrounded the mountain. Yi Qinghan's eyes pierced through the void and saw the power of the Saint Blood tribe. He was secretly shocked. The Saint Blood tribe seemed to be much stronger than an ancient master god or a clan with an emperor's inheritance. The emperor's inheritance had fallen, but the Saint Blood tribe hadn't. Whoosh! Xing Luzun swooped down and landed outside the Saint Blood tribe's sacred mountain city. Yi Qinghan followed closely behind and landed slowly without causing any disturbance. He looked up at the sacred mountain. There was a strong aura of an expert spreading out. The Emperor's aura had already formed. He didn't see anyone at this time. He didn't know if this person had truly stepped into the Taigu Emperor realm. "Please." Xing Luzun gestured with his hand. Yi Qinghan put the multicolored snake and Sovereign Yi back into his bloodline. He walked slowly, but his speed wasn't slow. He shuttled through the streets and arrived at the foot of the sacred mountain after 2 hours. The sacred mountain wasn't steep. There were many ancient buildings halfway up the mountain and a staircase that led to the sky. Xing Luzun led Yi Qinghan up the staircase and walked towards the middle of the sacred mountain. At this time, 3 powerful youths stopped the two. They looked at the masked Yi Qinghan and said in a deep voice, "Please take off your mask." Whoosh! Yi Qinghan didn't refuse. He took off his mask and revealed a determined face. He didn't look old, but he had experienced many vicissitudes of life. "Who are you?" One of the youths glanced at Xing Luzun and stared at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan said faintly, "My name is Yi Qinghan. I'm from the undying immortal world, a vassal of the ancient immortal world. Tao friend, you can help me inform your clan's leader that I want to see him." Boom, bang. The 3 youths didn't even look back. They directly sent out palms and surrounded Yi Qinghan from 3 sides. They were so fast that even Xing Luzun couldn't react. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan was also stunned, but his reaction was even faster. He dodged and twisted his body, evading the 3 attacks in the blink of an eye. Then, he exchanged a palm strike with each of them. The shock wave spread out in all directions, and the barrier on the sacred mountain was activated, causing it to shine brightly. Boom! The 3 of them didn't use any weapons. They swept their long legs and cut off mountains and rivers. Yi Qinghan used 2 fists to block 6 punches. He swept his legs and hit the 3 6 times in an instant. He floated calmly in the air and looked down at the 3 youths from the Blood Saint race. They were all first-rate experts and didn't lose to Xing Luzun. They could be ranked in the middle of the older generation of the Crazy Manor. "Everyone, is this how the Blood Saint race treats their guests?" Yi Qinghan asked in a deep voice. The leader of the youths clenched his fists and replied, "Sorry, but you're not a guest. Are you going to surrender or wait for me to take you down?" Yi Qinghan looked at the 3 youths. Their individual strength could be ranked in the middle of the older generation of the Crazy Manor, but their fighting experience couldn't compare. Even if they joined forces, they wouldn't be able to last an hour against him. I don't like to kill, and I don't want to be enemies with the Blood Saint race. I've searched the entire universe, and you're the only race from the primeval, immortal world. There's a lot of information you know, which is why I took the liberty to come and disturb you. If you're willing to be friends, I'll return the favor, Yi Qinghan reminded them. Whoosh. You talk too much. Boom boom boom. Woo woo woo. The three youths' punches and kicks were indeed good. Their shockwaves swept through the air as they kicked Yi Qinghan. Boom. Bang. This time, Yi Qinghan was angered. He used the power of order to punch the three youths. Bang bang bang. The three punches were as fast as lightning, and the attacks were extremely tricky. It was completely against common sense. The three youths' combat strength was indeed good, but their fighting experience was like that of children in front of Yi Qinghan. They were sent flying by Yi Qinghan's three punches. Crack! The three youths were punched in the neck. The power of order reversal swept through their bodies and knocked them to the ground. Xing Yuezuan was shocked. The three youths were among the top 15 of the Blood Saint race, but they were defeated by Yi Qinghan in a single punch. Perhaps only the patriarch of the Blood Saint race could do such a thing. Frogs at the bottom of a well, I've already said that I don't want to be enemies with the Blood Saint race. I'd like to invite the patriarch of your race to come out and meet me. Otherwise, don't blame me if we hurt each other, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. The sound waves rolled, and Qi soared into the sky, directly into the boundary of the holy mountain. Chapter 2786. Yi Qinghan's aura soared to the sky. He had defeated three experts with one punch, which showed his strength. Xing Luzun stood behind Yi Qinghan, not wanting him to leave. However, Yi Qinghan had no intention of leaving. He had to find clues about Class 1 Hall. At this moment, the sacred mountain's barrier dissipated. Bring him up. A majestic voice resounded through the clouds and reverberated below the sacred mountain. Yi Qinghan looked up and knew that this person's strength was not ordinary. It was very likely that he was on the same level as a Dao patroller. The three people who had been defeated by Yi Qinghan immediately bowed and said, "Yes, Patriarch." The three glared fiercely at Yi Qinghan and snorted. They did not even say a word and walked towards the sacred mountain. Yi Qinghan sneered. The three of them were still very young. Their wisdom was far from the insane sex. Tap tap tap, Yi Qinghan slowly walked up the stairway. He was getting faster and faster. The mask was already on his face. When he was halfway up the rugged stairway, the bottom was filled with clouds and mist. There was a deep cliff. From here, he could see the realm of Blood Saint countless miles away. Yi Qinghan followed the three to the mountainside of the sacred mountain. This wasn't a building, but a cave. Half of the mountain had been hollowed out, and the front and back of the mountain were connected. There was also a stairway to heaven on the opposite side of the mountain, like two fried dough twists wrapped around the sacred mountain. Humph! The leading youth snorted and said, "Go in. If you can come out alive, I will wait for you at the sacred mountain plaza. We will fight to the death." Yi Qinghan shook his head and replied indifferently, "Young man, you are not my opponent. Calm your mind. Don't be like a 3-year-old child. In your current state, the 4th state is your limit." The young man was instantly enraged. Yi Qinghan was clearly calling him brainless. At this moment, a dignified voice came from within the cave. "This fellow Taoist is right. He is teaching you. If you can understand it, you might be able to reach a higher level. If you can't, you will be stuck at this level for the rest of your life." The young man in the lead immediately broke out in cold sweat. He quickly bowed and said, "Thank you for your guidance, Patriarch and fellow Taoist." Tap tap tap, Yi Qinghan shook his head and slowly stepped into the dazzling cave. The mountain had been pierced through and was extremely wide. When he stepped into the center, he realized that the 4 directions had been pierced through. It was like a crossroads. The sun shone brightly and there was actually a warm aura here. Sacred blood elemental, a sacred blood elemental filled with Emperor's might. This person was indeed at the level of the Taigu Emperor. He could be compared to a Dao patroller. Whoosh! At this moment, the stone beneath his feet suddenly split apart, revealing a deep hole. There was a staircase at the bottom, and an old man slowly walked up the staircase. Dignity, vicissitudes of life, wisdom. The old man's aura was very strong, slightly stronger than a Dao patroller. Yi Qinghan could tell at a glance. After all, he had fought with the Dao patroller for so long, and the latter's strength was very clear. Yi Qinghan took half a step back and immediately took off his mask. He bowed and said, "Junior Yi Qinghan greets Senior." The old man's hair was white, and even his eyebrows were white. However, it seemed that he had lived for many years and was definitely from the same era as the Dao patroller. The appearance of dragon and tiger, the mask of the Yen tribe's Yen ancestor. However, you are not from the Yen tribe. Who are you? The old man asked in a dignified voice. Yi Qinghan calmly replied, "I am someone outside the laws. I do not belong to any tribe." Outside the laws? The old man frowned and looked at Yi Qinghan. His aura was incompatible with the laws, but he could make use of them. He could not see through him at all. Interesting. Outside the laws, there really are such people in the world. The old man was expressionless, but his heart was in turmoil. To reverse the laws, one had to withstand a force that could destroy the Taigu Emperor's body. Even the Taigu Emperor could not withstand it. How did Yi Qinghan, who had yet to become an emperor, do it? There is always someone better than you. Just like how I did not know about the Blood Saint tribe, Yi Qinghan calmly replied. The old man was silent for a while before he nodded and asked, "Why are you looking for me?" Yi Qinghan immediately replied, "I want to know about Class 1 Hall. I wonder if Senior can enlighten me?" "I know a little, but I will try my best." The old man nodded. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and asked, "Senior, do you know who the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall is?" When the old man heard about Class 1 Hall's Hall Master, he could not help but take a deep breath. He clenched his fists and slowly walked to the exit on the other side. With his back to Yi Qinghan, he looked at a huge planet in the distance and said quietly, "My father knows, but he died in battle." Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up and he immediately asked, "Who killed him?" "Class 1 Hall's Hall Master," the old man said in a ghastly voice, his hatred overflowing. Yi Qinghan was stunned. He did not expect that the Blood Saint tribe, one of the 10 special bloodlines, would still be attacked by Class 1 Hall. "Your father's combat strength, what realm was he at back then?" Yi Qinghan asked in surprise. "He was stronger than me. He was the real Taigu Emperor." The old man's back was filled with vicissitudes and killing intent, but it disappeared in a flash. He was restraining his hatred and did not want to take revenge at all. Yi Qinghan was immediately shocked. The Hall Master of Class 1 Hall actually had the ability to kill the real Taigu Emperor without suffering any injuries. This Hall Master's combat strength was too exaggerated. No wonder the Yen tribe did not want to appear. It turned out that they really could not defeat the other party. Why did he kill the Blood Saint tribe's Taigu Emperor? Logically speaking, shouldn't they be fighting the Yen tribe at that time? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. The old man smiled bitterly and said quietly, "To resist foreign aggression, one must first pacify the internal situation. My father was also a member of Class 1 Hall, but because he did not agree to the war against the Yen tribe, he was personally killed by the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall. Then, my tribe was expelled from the ancient immortal world. My tribe's elder had no choice but to migrate with his people. Just as my tribe began to migrate, the war between Class 1 Hall and the Yen tribe officially began. It was not that the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall did not want to exterminate the Blood Saint tribe, but he was worried that the other hall masters of Class 1 Hall would be disappointed. Therefore, he only expelled them from the ancient immortal world and left them to fend for themselves. At this time, it was Yi Qinghan's turn to be silent. Class 1 Hall was too vicious and merciless. They even killed a member of the Taigu Emperor's level. The way they did things was not just swift and decisive. The Yen tribe is extinct, right? The old man was almost certain. Although he had never seen the war between the two sides, he was almost certain. This was because he had too much faith in the strength of the Hall Master of Class 1 Hall. Yi Qinghan nodded silently and replied, "Almost. There are not many left. The true direct descendants can be counted on one hand." "What about Class 1 Hall? Is that Hall Master dead?" When he mentioned Class 1 Hall and the Hall Master, the old man was filled with hatred. Yi Qinghan shook his head and replied, "Class 1 Hall only has the primordial god of space and time and the 4 Taigu emperors left. However, they are all heavily injured and have been in hiding for countless years. However, Class 1 Hall now has a new primordial emperor called the Dao Patrol." When the Blood Saint tribe's leader heard about the Dao Patrol, he was immediately enraged. He growled, "Dao Patrol! You're really a good dog." It was clear that the Blood Saint tribe's leader and the Dao Patrol knew each other and were very familiar with each other. Yi Qinghan was silent for a long time. When he saw that the Blood Saint tribe's leader had calmed down, he asked, "I wonder what Senior knows about Class 1 Hall. Can you tell me everything? You and I are not enemies. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We are friends. I'm too tired. I haven't recovered yet, so I slept a little longer." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.